ringing in my head. Sun came in, I'll close the blinds. Could feel it in the air. This is just a waste of time. No one really cares. But then you came across my mind, got me out of there. So I went down to the river and swam till the panic was over. Yes, I went down to the river, watched all the heavy waves. I watched all the heavy feeling all the noise in here. It's becoming ache. Pull me into calm and deep, and take me out to the waves. 'Cause I feel like a waste of space, breathing in the air. But you hold me like I might just break, like you want me there. So I went down to the river and swam till the panic was over. Yes, I went down to the river, watched all the heavy waves. I watched all the heavy All I really wanna know is, will you be mine? And all I really think about is, when will you be mine? Don't you get trapped inside your thoughts, trying so hard to guess the plot? 'Cause when we meet, you'll see the wait was really worth it. I would wait forever, 'cause I got faith, it's just a matter of time. All of the nights without you, I will just keep on waiting, waiting for you. For you. Waiting for you.
Tries to hold on to the bottom. Here comes Gisette. They make contact. They touch once, twice, 3 times.
Foul trouble! Oh, no, Rocky into the wall. Big crash front straightaway. Huge crash coming into the triangle. No, Rocky up and into the air. They're beating and banging. Burn on the bottom, Cosman up top. I think. No! Joseph. Joseph now at the line. Third horse pulls the win out at the stripe.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here?
Here comes the canvas.
Get your foot down.
He's got it. He's got it. Canvas is going to win.
FTF.GG welcomes you to a special event unlike any other. Tonight, it's the FTF.GG Rectangle 500 from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana, as we ride the Dallara IR18s off into the sunset. And qualifying, it's go time from Indianapolis. Glad to have you along for the ride one final time here in 2022. Jacob Pitts, Joey Tebben with you, and Justin Prince down on pit road for us. We'll get to him in just a moment. And Joey, 33 drivers get to slug it out, 200 laps, 500 miles, and at the end, somebody will be a Rectangle 500 champion.
Indeed. Rectangles up, everybody. Hopefully everybody at home is putting up their rectangles. It's going to be a tradition, or hopefully it will be a tradition, because, you know, we come into this weekend hoping that this isn't the last time we get to put on an event like this, but we're going to enjoy it while it lasts. Like you said, 500 miles of IR18 racing here in Indianapolis. Fuel strategy, whatever. There's almost nothing better.
And a lot of different communities putting on events throughout this last week, trying to cram them in before the new year starts on Sunday. Ours is tonight, and so glad to have you with us here on FTF. The 33-car field, how this was all set up. Tuesday night, we had qualifying for everybody that signed up. Some 60 drivers that decided that they wanted to have a shot to try and make the FTF.GG Rectangle 500. We took from that point on, 13th through 30th, were locked into the show. The top 12, they requalified for the pole, and then everybody on the outside looking in had to requalify one attempt to set the final row. We have had two different drivers now since that point drop out. They couldn't make it tonight, so we've had a couple of replacements, guys that were initially just on the outside looking in. They get the shot now, Joey, to race tonight.
Indeed, they do. Griffin Jones and Harry Grindell, the two most recent additions. They thought they were out, but that is why we have reserved lists. That's why we have the guys sitting on the sidelines. Harry Grindell, of course, giving us some UK representation there from the back of the grid, and Griffin Jones as well. He only got in today. He only got in about an hour or two ago. So both of those guys, they're all practiced up. They've done the same amount of work this weekend as anybody else, but they've got a shot now.
It's a good thing he didn't make any plans for tonight after qualifying on Wednesday night. And Joey, let's talk about this racetrack, because it is fast in these Dallara IR18s. It is slick. It is so difficult to pass here.
Especially in this new aero kit era. After the new aero kits were put in place in 2018, the sort of slingshot style racing that you saw here was reversed in a way. It's become a little bit more of a train of sorts deeper in the field, which is sometimes a whatever word I'm trying to think of there, a derogatory term, but it is a very different style of racing. When you are deeper in the train like that, when you are, say, 11th, 12th in line, you're likely not going to be making the pass on the driver in front of you, but you can do a lot of different things. You can save fuel. You can save a little bit of tire life, because it's a 500-mile race. You can only go about 30 laps on a fuel stint. There's a lot of pit stops. There's a lot of openness for strategy. There's a lot of different ways you can move your way forward.
A lot of pit stops, and we'll talk with Justin Prince about that in just a little bit. We are just moments away from the starting grid here from Indianapolis. There you see that's Josh Stoltz, I do believe, coming down the back straightaway. Here in the warm-up session that the drivers have. They use this pretty much to test out the three-wide start that they do here in Indianapolis, and they did a pretty solid job at it. So I think we're going to get through more than likely without any chaos. But they do have an extra pace lap just in case to get everybody set up and in order before we drop the green flag and let the drivers go to work. It is now 8:30 here on the East Coast. Justin Melillo is still doing his driver's meeting. We were told grid was at 8:30, so we're sort of riding along right with you right now until we get this thing underway.
The drivers are using these few extra minutes to do a little bit more, practice in traffic, running in traffic. That is the most difficult thing drivers are going to have to adapt here. This is not a qualifying run here anymore. You are not throwing everything at this track on your own. You are a subject to the dirty air. It is immensely difficult to ride around in the dirty air in this car. It's like a completely different track and a completely different car when you are riding in that bad wake. So you might as well take these extra couple minutes to get a couple of extra practice laps and get extra comfortable, because you don't want to be the guy who throws it away on lap 1 because you weren't used to the dirty air.
Well, and you have to think about, too, here, Joey, the fact that all we've done this entire week has been qualifying. Single car. When we go to Daytona and prep for the Daytona 500, you're doing it with other cars on the racetrack, whether it's in the duels, whether it's in the Clash, what used to be the Clash that was at Daytona. Even in the iRacing 24, you had the Roar before, get a little experience with the guys around you. This event is completely different in the fact that the only time that you really get to race everybody or anybody on the racetrack is the day of the event.
Yeah, luckily there were a few extra hours of practice this morning as the number 7 kills the attenuator. Hopefully that doesn't happen come race time, but Justin Melillo put up a couple of hours of race practice earlier. A lot of drivers did take advantage of that to get more dirty air running, but you're never really prepared until the race truly begins, and we get in those race conditions, and I think it is about time to start getting gridded up.
Practice is done. It's time for the grid here from Indianapolis. Let's go through your starting grid, all 33 cars throughout the 12, make that 11 rows. Row number 1, Josh Parker, your pole sitter out of East Greenwich, Rhode Island. Logan Helton in the middle out of Milton, Florida. Alex Kolonix on the outside out of Chestnut Ridge, New York.
And Connor Harrington, one of the favorites coming into this event, will start in the inside of row number 2. In the middle will be Jonathan Oates. And on the outside, another one of those favorites, another driver with tons of experience in this car, Nick DeGroot, will start in 6th.
Brandon Hawken out of Canada starts in row number 3 on the inside. Ian Plash from Chicago in the middle. Nate Stewart out of Kentucky, the second split iRacing Open Indy 500 winner earlier this year. He lines up P number 9 on the outside in row 3.
Then Matthew Zwack down in P10. Downtown, David L. Brown, disappointed with his qualifying run, still P11 though. And Seth DeMerchant wasn't there for the Fast 12 shootout after his heroic performance on day 1 of qualifying to put himself in the Fast 12 in the first place.
We are missing a car. Jonathan Oates.
Oh dear.
He's not on the racetrack. He blew it. Because he can't start. He can't roll now until we get the green flag. So this ought to be interesting. Cozy, you see there in row number 5. Blake Reynolds. Nicholas Pressey is in that position as well. As we keep going down through the rest of the order, the cars are starting to roll now. You got the pace cars at the back of the field as well, driven by Kevin McAdams and Cosmin Ionescu. In the meantime, while we see through the rest of the grid, we welcome in the third member of our broadcast team, Justin Prince, with an update from last breaking stories on the pit lane. JP?
Thank you very much, Jacob. It's been talked about a lot by many of the drivers entering tonight, the handling of some of these cars, especially in the midst of traffic at the start of tonight's action. In fact, drivers like Gary Owen mentioned that even by themselves with some of the dirty air in front, there was the chance drivers could kick out. The concerns for the pole sitter, Josh Parker, quite simply, 10 out of 10 aero bad when it comes to the pressure. So many of the drivers have talked about keeping a very conservative start to begin tonight's action to make sure once they get the tires heated up, to make sure the aero doesn't take them to the wall. In many cases here at this facility in the past with this car, that has happened plenty of times, both in league competition and special events, Jacob.
One other question here, Justin. It's going to be about fuel mileage here at this racetrack. Obviously, these are not NASCAR cars. They don't have giant fuel tanks on these things. They're going to be coming to pit road early and often throughout the night.
Absolutely, and that's already been a discussion point for a couple of the drivers. Logan Helton, for example, made it clear he wanted to stay in second spot from the get-go, not be the leader, save some gas so we can save fuel and go long. Because if you stay in the draft, you can extend the run, remember, up to about 2 to 3, maybe up to 5 laps in the early going. So already, some of the drivers have mentioned stay in a line and save some fuel.
All right, thanks, Justin. We'll catch up with you in the meantime throughout the night as we come to one lap to green as the entire field doing 65 miles an hour down the front straightaway, getting set to go. The actual pace car, well, it's in the middle of the back straightaway, but don't worry about that. It's Cosman and Kevin leading us around in the FTF Porsches as we get set to go here, and we'll get the green flag next time by.
This is when the pressure really starts to build up. You know, there's all those virtual fans in the stands. It may not be the pressure of 150,000 people here on race day in real life, but the pressure always builds up when you're circulating around 3 wide, 11 rows deep. This is 500 miles at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's the ultimate pressure right now. Everybody just wants this race to get going. It seems like you're almost at a glacial pace on these pace laps. The start can't come fast enough.
Let's see how everything works out here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The field's still packed together 3 wide on the back straightaway. As everybody's still spread out 3 wide, and you notice the gap there in the middle. It's like a missing tooth right in the middle of the second row. That's where Jonathan Oates was supposed to be. He is going to start from the pit lane. He said he was having some resolution issues with his screen right before the grid, and that's why he did not get out onto the racetrack in time. The pace cars have throttled away. The qualifying's done. The practice is done. It's time to get to work from Indianapolis. Josh Parker gets on the gas. It's time to go for one last time from Indianapolis in the Dallara IR18s. The FTF Rectangle 500 is underway. And we've got a crash. Nate Stewart's in the wall. Nate Stewart has crashed in turn 1. Caution's out. He got the outside wall coming out of turn number 1 and comes crashing down the racetrack, and already an early caution here at Indy.
It was a very spread out start. I think part of that was deliberate to make sure there wasn't too much calamity, there wasn't too much chaos on lap 1. But still, there's 33 cars all filing into turn 1. Somebody, unfortunately, comes out on the wrong end sometimes. Let's see what happened to Nate Stewart here, completely on his own. A little bit far back to really be in the dirty air, but he just got a little bit wide. Wasn't used to being in that little bit of dirty air, and he walls it. He might have been okay with that little tap, a little bit of suspension damage, but it was that inside wall that really killed him. Nate Stewart, he's not done for the day, but he's on the back foot. He's probably going to go multiple laps down.
No fast repairs here at Indianapolis. If this saves one car, it saves Jonathan Oates, who is able to catch up to the tail end of the lead lap after starting from the pit lane. Justin Prince, you have an update for us on the pit lane. All right, in the meantime, we really only got through a corner of the lap there. Josh Parker, your leader, and you kind of commented on it, Joey, that start was something. They got pretty spread out pretty quick.
Yeah, they were already spread out, and Josh Parker, I believe by the rules that Justin Melillo set out in pre-race. I'm going to have to look again at the rule book, but I believe that was completely legal. On the start of the race, you were allowed to go as early as you want in turn 4. So that was completely legal, but it was very, very spread out. I think a lot of people in those deeper rows were not necessarily expecting Josh Parker to go that early. So we got a lot of separation, and it's all going to be single file from here.
All right, let's try this again. JP on pit lane about Nate Stewart.
Gotta love sometimes the delays there, but in the response to what happened with Nate Stewart, it was simple. A facepalm, Then mentioned he plowed way more than he thought it was going to. It's exactly what we just talked about right before the green flag with the aerodynamics. Several drivers already talked about, in fact, Anthony Krobach especially, said they nearly plowed as well. Not a good sign.
Definitely not a good sign. Thank you, JP. Pace car has the lights out. It's in turn 3. The field stacking up here on the back straightaway, getting set to go back to green after not even a full lap under the green flag. Josh Parker still your leader. Logan Helton in second. Alex Kolonix in third. Connor Harrington fourth. Nick DeGroot the top 5. Everybody going to be single file here for this restart, just like they do. And never mind, they extended it. I'm not sure why, but we're going to do another lap.
And one more lap around here. I'm trying to look back, too, if anybody got into any sort of trouble. I don't think they did. Maybe Nate Stewart. No, he's still getting repairs in the pits. He hasn't even left his pit box yet, so it's not him. But we will go around one more time. Single file race. No, we are green. We are green. Josh Parker just waited an absolute eternity, but we are green.
I don't know why it extended the caution. Okay, false start. Offense. 5-yard penalty.
Oh, dear.
Second down. Don't crash. We're still under caution. This is dicey.
These are the diciest situations when the start gets waved off. Everybody's got to react quickly. Looks like everybody has managed to slow down. Everybody's heard the command, but that was very dicey stuff. I don't think anybody really knew what to do.
Man, oh man. I almost wonder if maybe Justin hit a button accidentally. If he's got the extend caution or throw caution and the clear black flag button next to each other on his keyboard, and maybe he bumped it because he cleared a black flag right before the caution was extended. I wonder if that had something to do with it.
It's entirely possible.
Malillo just confirmed it.
Oh, he should get a penalty for that. P20, give him a drive-through for that.
All right, well, it's a good thing voice chat exists at iRacing, and it's also a good thing he listens to the broadcast. Take 2 here from Indianapolis. Josh Parker on the gas leads us back around, and after 4 laps under the caution flag, we're back to racing here at Indianapolis. Battle for 5th for a moment. Nick DeGroot under some pressure. Had Brandon Hawken behind him. We've got trouble again off turn 1. That's Nick Pressey that's around.
Same place as Nate Stewart. I have to imagine same exact thing.
He had some contact that time side by side with J.D. Laird in turn number 1. And that 94 got some assistance in going around.
It was a single file restart, but everybody somehow was closer together. I think that is JD popping it to the inside in turn 1. And yeah, that is all on JD Laird there, just popping up into Pressey. Pressey gave him room. It's not like he was especially squeezing him, but that's another thing you just have to get used to in the dirty air, in the traffic, in these cars. The car's not going to turn as much as you want it to. You need to be very, very mindful of the car to the outside, and he tried to lift out of it, but that just made things even worse.
Great job there by Laird to at least avoid making more contact, and a great job by the rest of the field as well to avoid him going around.
Josh Parker's having a good old time here out front. He hasn't had to actually lead much of the race. Sometimes you don't want to be the leader early on. That's what Logan Helton was talking about pre-race. He wanted to save a little bit of fuel, but everybody gets to save all the fuel now because we've been under pace running for the first 6 laps of the race.
5 laps, 6 laps complete here when they cross the yard of bricks here this time by. And yeah, it's been a little bit of a rough start here from Indianapolis. The good news is, though, 43 days into the bar visual FTF 500. A lot of fun awaits us here on FTF from the from the Daytona International Speedway. Obviously, the 24-hour race through iRacing is in a couple of weeks already. Believe it or not, it's coming quick. And then after that, it's the focus on the high banks. Sign-up start in 2 days, January 1st, 2023. For more information, go to ftf.gg to get all the fun stuff that you'll need to get. We are half a lap away from green here. They've shortened the races. Shortened the races. How about shorten the cautions throughout these first two? That's why we've been able to go back to green so far. Just 2 single car spins, putting us under the caution flag. I think there was some contact back in the field, perhaps.
Williams and Gary Owen.
Yeah, this was in turn 2. This lap, Williams just got into the back of Gary Owen there, right at the entrance of turn number 2. As we're coming to green, Justin, what happened?
Well, in that situation, a checkup with Williams, apologizing over the radio because he wasn't expecting the checkup. Gary Owen, as a result, has a skewed race car coming to the green.
We'll see how that works out for him. Pace car on the pit lane. We're back to green. 7 laps complete. A lot more to go. 1 car is coming to the pit lane here as the field makes their way down the front straightaway. That is Gary Owen. So Owen, with that damaged race car, makes the call to come down to pit lane as the field makes their way through turn 1 at full speed, or just about at full speed. And it looks like this is the furthest we made it tonight, Joey.
Yeah, it looks like everybody has made it through 1 and 2 finally. I saw Seth DeMerchant in the background going for a move on Matthew Zwack, potentially. Michael Cozy trying to move his way forward. But now the pressure starts to get on. We've gotten off these teething issues here in the opening laps of the race. We finally completed a full lap under green flag conditions. Now it's the time to start to settle into a race rhythm if you can.
Issues for Tyler J. Williams. JP.
That's involving that checkup situation we just talked about. Williams dealing with some wing damage as a result of the checkup. Gary Owen came in last time by. His reasoning, 5 minutes of optional damage from that chassis hit with the skewed race car. Both of those drivers, significant hits to the races.
Yeah, these Dallara IR18s are very fragile, and it costs them just with contact under caution. You always have to be paying attention. As Josh Parker still out in front here at Indianapolis by about half a second over Logan Helton. And for the most part, everybody single file. You've got a battle between Michael Cozy Jr. and Andrew Cootie.
Yeah, Cootie is moving. You saw Michael Cozy Jr.'s teammate Seth DeMerchant get passed by Blake Reynolds there. So I imagine maybe these 2 drivers, 2 similarly liveried vehicles working together a little bit, thinking about fuel strategy, potentially falling back a little bit. As you also see Anthony Kroback in that orange and white Home Depot entry, almost clipping the inside curb in turn 2. That checked him up a little bit. Freilich looks to the inside, doesn't have the momentum to go for an actual move into 3 though.
It's a little bit closer to that rear wing once again, but he stays in line, at least for now. Kroback up the hill, and here comes Freilich down to the bottom. They'll be side by side as we complete now the first 10 laps here from Indianapolis.
Again, peeks to the inside in 1, and then he washes up in the dirty air. He's lucky there was nobody to his outside there, but he was nowhere near close enough to being side by side with Kroback for that move to work, and now he is in trouble. He's got a whole train of hungry drivers behind him. Aaron Brown, Chris Robertson, and Michael P. Frisch. They're all looking to the back of Cole Freilich now.
A dogfight back here after Cole Freilich got a little too close to Kroback there, and he did a great job hanging onto the race car, as now he starts to put another gap between himself and Brown. Back down the front straightaway.
This is that difficult part of the pack. These guys are fighting for 15th, 16th, 17th place. That's basically dead in the middle of the field. This is the place where it's almost impossible to make passes. You basically just need to wait for a mistake from the car ahead to be able to get ahead of them, because you're just all in that multiplied dirty air. Justin Malillo looks like he's made one of those mistakes, though. He's under pressure from Harry Grindell, who wasn't even supposed to be in the field tonight.
Grindell with a charge to the front. plus 13 since the drop of the green flag as he goes by Melillo. Melillo has experience in these cars at this track, was a contender for the win in the M&R race here earlier this month, was in the battle for the win with 7 to go, made contact with 4 to go. It cost him a shot at victory, and now Josh Stoltz gets by him here going into turn number 1.
Yeah, I don't think there was a mistake from Melillo on the last lap there. I think he's just kind of slow rolling it here. He's shown no intention to really fight for any of these positions in the 20s. He let Grindel by. He just let Josh Stoltz by basically there in turn 1. Sean Begley's going to be the next one up here. I have to imagine it might be a similar story. That tells me that Justin Melillo is just saving fuel whenever he can right now. On the other hand, Ethan Corder in this pink entry, he's not saving fuel. He's on fresher tires. He came in under that last caution, and he's flying.
He is rolling on that high side, blows by Jonathan Oates. Oates, remember, starting from the pit lane, was supposed to start P5. Melillo up the hill again, passed by Begley, and here comes Corder, a two-piece there. Melillo continues to drop back.
When somebody's getting as aggressive as Ethan Corder is right now, it's spectacular to see, but I do worry about him later on in the run, just sending it to the outside. He's probably got the weight jacker turned up, but you do trade off doing that. You get your track positions, you get your aggressive moves, you get your TV time, but you also get the tires falling off much, much quicker because while he is faster through the corner, he's also scrubbing the tires through the corner even faster and even more aggressively. He might have track position right now, Ethan Corder, but he is going to be struggling later on.
Still, hottest battle on the racetrack. It is right around that quarter machine. Of course, he starts to pull away, but that doesn't mean that there isn't battling going on behind him. It looked like Connor Harrington was starting to reel in Alex Kolonix for position number 3. And the gap is down now to about 0.2 of a second. Kolonix about a second back from second place Logan Helton.
Best thing about Alex Kolonix's entry is that it is not difficult to pick out from the lineup. Every time you see that car, you know that that is the number 12 of Alex Kolonix. Connor Harrington behind him, though, keeping the pressure on. Kolonix said he was trying to search for a little bit of clean air. He's kind of finding it because he's lost almost a full second to Logan Helton. He's starting to, frankly, just find clean air in the distance there, but that's also hurting him because Connor Harrington is able to get to the back of him. This essentially becomes a battle for the lead of this pack here as they fall out of the dirty air of the cars ahead. That's going to allow Connor Harrington to get a better run on Kolonix. It's going to allow him to not get as held up in the dirty air as the cars ahead. It's going to let him go for a slingshot into third if he really wants it.
Here
and he does.
To the inside. And he takes that spot away. Connor Harrington slots into position number 3 with 16 laps complete here in the FTF Rectangle 500 from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
You can already see the distance that Harrington's pulled there. I don't think Kolonix was necessarily ready to be in the dirty air of Connor Harrington there. He struggled through turn 2 there, getting it back under control. Now he's got to kind of get the rhythm back here. It's a different change of scenery. He lost a second to Logan Helton. He was basically riding in 50% clean air. Now he is in true dirty air behind Connor Harrington, and he's got to get back in the rhythm before Nick DeGroot finds a way to catch him.
Josh Parker continuing to lead the way. He's got an 0.8 of a second lead over Logan Helton in second. Then Harrington, Kolonix, DeGroot, the rest of your top 5. Check in further back in the field. A battle on the racetrack right now. Christopher Robinson in the 18th position. Harry Grindel continues his march up the field. He's in position number 19.
Here we go to the inside. I believe that's Seth Eggert peeking to the inside in turn number 3. Got that move done, but Justin, you've been hearing all about these fuel strategies here with those cautions early on in the race. It's kind of shaking things up.
Absolutely, that's actually just become a discussion point for a lot of the drivers just at this point because they know with the cautions that stretches the windows out. A few at the back had topped off, such as Seth Eggert and a few others. Some of the others at the very back, such as Jake Poulin, did discuss they are playing around with very high fuel maps, very low fuel maps, should say, in terms of consumption to try and save the gas. But it's pretty much coming to the simple conclusion. Get into a rhythm, find a pocket to race in, and find some clean air while saving the gas to try and make sure you cut out the potential of extra stops towards the end.
19 laps complete. Thank you, JP. Here at Indy, and the battle for fourth. Thought it was starting to reel in for a moment, but the group kind of loses time to Kalnick's there on one end of the speedway and down the backstretch, continuing to lose a little bit of time.
Josh Parker's pulling away from Logan Helton here, which is somewhat interesting. I think Helton is definitely saving a little bit of fuel in second. He's definitely just riding, but Josh Parker has been forced into this lead here by these cautions. Nobody really wants to fight with him. He's just got to suffer out front. He's going to expend the most fuel of anybody. He could probably back it up a little bit and save a little bit more, but he's shown no interest in doing that.
20 laps complete at the FTF Rectangle 500. Josh Parker, he's led them all so far. We step aside here from Indianapolis. A long way to go in the FTF Rectangle 500. Back here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana for the FTF Rectangle 500. Jacob Pitts, Joey Tebben with you as Justin Prince down in the pit lane. Zach Johnson pressing all the buttons for us tonight here from Indy. And you'll notice with the helicopter camera that, well, the weather is making an impact. Dynamic sky tonight, and the time actually moving. It's not like qualifying where everything was static, no dynamic sky. Today, things change around, and that means that the sun and clouds can come and go. In that commercial break, we had a giant cloud come over the speedway, and now the sun's back out.
Yeah, Dynamic Sky kind of sounds like an indie rock band, which is fitting because it is rocking these drivers' worlds at Indy. It's getting a little bit cooler on one end of the speedway. That's going to be better for tire life. It's going to be better for trying to keep those 4 Firestone tires underneath them, but it is difficult to adjust to changing track conditions. It's going to drive completely different on one end of the speedway as it is on another. It's basically like you're driving 2 different racetracks now.
Searching around the racetrack for any battles, and we have one in the 16th position. Aaron Brown, Michael P. Frisch. They're in turn 3. Frisch +7 from the drop of the green flag, starting P24.
And we're seeing a lot of the differences in strategies here. We're hearing from so many drivers. We're seeing so many drivers just kind of cruising around in one of the lower fuel maps, just saving fuel, riding until that first pit stop comes around. And then you see people like Frisch, like Ethan Corder, like a few others who are not interested in saving fuel. They are interested in driving their way forward, getting track position, and they'll worry about fuel later when they need to.
Kevin McAdams, who was our safety car driver, who is now turned into a weathercaster. The track temperature was at 114 at the green flag. With the cloud cover, it dropped to 108, now sitting at 112 degrees Fahrenheit. Air temp at 79. It's a beautiful day in Speedway, Indiana. The in-sim time and date set for just after noon on May the 29th, 2022. Gotta be thinking we're closing in on pit stops here, Joey. We were guessing around 30 laps or so a driver could make it on fuel. And the leaders right now have been on the racetrack for 28 laps. Even with fuel saving and with the different fuel modes that they can play with in the cars, they're not going to be out there for too much longer as we ride on board with Justin Malillo.
Yeah, as this is a fixed setup event, it's difficult to tell you how exactly long the fuel window is going to be, but normally the rule of thumb at Indianapolis, it tends to be around 30 to 32, maybe 33, 34 if you can really extend it on fuel, but 32 tends to be the place where most people come in. But we did have basically 6 full laps of yellow because remember, Nate Stewart and Nicholas Pressey and JD Laird, we didn't make it through turn 1 in either of those restarts. We didn't spend much time at all full throttle. So those are 6 extra laps of caution for full fuel saving for everybody. I have to imagine they might be able to extend maybe 36, 37, as late as that.
And we have had a couple of guys make pit stops. Of course, it was under that most recent caution. Ethan Corder, JD Laird, Jake Poulin, Nicholas Pressey, Seth Eggert, Griffin Jones, Tyler J. Williams. Of course, Williams stopped after we were already back to racing after the contact he made with Gary Owen right before the greens. We're on board there, Cole Freilich. As you saw, he's closing in on P12. That's David L. Brown. Your leader is on pit road, Josh Parker, headed to the pit lane. And I guess that answers our question as to when strategy would be. As Justin Prince making his way down to the pit box of the number 41, down at the entrance of pit road. Your race leader, Josh Parker, in his stall. JP.
Well, Josh Parker mentioned before today's race his experience at this racetrack in eNASCAR competition back in the eNASCAR Coco iRacing Series, starting up at the front of the pack here at this facility. But the mindset was clear, being open-minded. Whatever strategy puts him in position to win the race is what he said he'll be doing so far, has led every lap up to the stop.
And Joey, something that's got to be very, very difficult for drivers at this point in time, even though they had to do it a lot in qualifying, is the access road on cold tires.
That is always exceptionally difficult. You saw Josh Parker there. He came so close to the grass there in the access road in turn 2. He didn't clip it. Good for him, but that is very, very difficult. It's also difficult in turn 3 as you're trying to readjust. You've got a full fuel load now. You've got cold tires underneath you. It's easy to forget whatever you've put into the car and just kind of forget that you're suddenly in a car that is many, many pounds heavier, and the tires are much, much grippier. It's very easy to just forget about that and end up slapping the wall in a sort of a lazy outlap move.
So Josh Parker, the first one to pit. Now remember, obviously since he was leading, he was burning up more fuel than everybody else because he didn't have the draft. But it sounds like Logan Helton is going to be in this time. A couple of cars further in the back of the field are on the pit lane. Aaron Brown, Michael P. Frisch making their way down to pit road. Back to JP.
So far, a lot of these drivers continuing to express the importance of trying to make it to the fuel number more than the racing. A lot of the drivers themselves, JD Laird reportedly may have gone into the wall moments ago. He started to slow down when it comes to Helton and their respective camp. Very quiet so far in the car. He's been working with his fellow teammate David Brown throughout the action tonight over the radio. But essentially, he mentioned he feels like the car's on rails until it's not. It's been the matter of trying to figure out how to use the in-car tools throughout the night. Oh, by the way, he's asked for some sour gummy worms to be sent his way as a late Christmas gift present.
Good choice.
I'm sure it's got to be easy to munch on those while driving the driving the Dallara IR18s around the racetrack. As Freilich down and away on pit lane, and half a dozen cars making their first stops right now. Connor Harrington seed second place, Brandon Hawken, Ian Plash, they're all to the pit lane.
And with Connor Harrington, plenty of experience when it comes to this car throughout the league scene and throughout the community scene with this chassis. Essentially, he kept it simple in terms of his mindset and strategy, waiting until the final 50 laps to come and then go from there to battle for the win. So far, been very silent so far, very calm. That promotes Alex Koenig up to the front of the field. He's been discussing where whenever he's been within a second of a car in front of him, he's been dealing with the aero wash. That's been a major struggle in that camp.
Trouble for Michael Cozy Jr. here, JP. Speeding on pit entry. Black flag. That's going to be a 40-second hold in the pits. He's the first one to speed on pit road, and boy, he wasn't even close.
Oof. Yes, indeed, a tough situation for Michael Cozy Jr., who had been quietly running mid-pack. He ran at 60 miles an hour. Caution on the speedway.
Trouble.
Cootie. Andrew Cootie.
Cootie, it's Andrew Cootie. And this was coming out of pit lane on the access road. He hit the Brad Keselowski wall.
He hit the Brad Keselowski wall. We talked about that pre-race. That's a place that can bite you. Still got to diagnose what happened to him, but this honestly saves Michael Cozy Jr. right now. He's still going to go a lap down, but he was at risk of ending up going 2 laps down. This caution has come out at kind of a perfect time for him.
We'll get a replay here of Cootie, and he didn't hit the grass or anything on the access road. So this is him. He's just coming through turn number 2. And we talked about cold tires. Did not hit the grass. Just got loose on exit and hard into the tires. He has gotten out of the car. He is done for the night, JP.
And he said the reason was he forgot to reset his tools from prior to the run. They had been playing around with their settings several times, especially with the front end, to try and help rotation towards the end of the run. He didn't reset them. He said he didn't get loose until he got to that straightaway.
So the third caution of the night is cast over the speedway here in Indianapolis. Ethan Corder is your leader. 5 cars have yet to stop and are on the lead lap. Corder, Poulin, Pressey, Eggert, Jones, they all pitted under the second caution flag. So they have made a stop, but they're likely going to pit here because they're not going to make it much further in this race. And did Justin do? Weird. Okay. Justin Malillo gave himself an EOL penalty. Not sure what's up with that. Pit stops for the leaders. JP.
And this is a big opportunity for a lot of these drivers. As talked about, Jake Poulin had been going into very conservative fuel modes to try and save gas outside of winning, trying to make a pass or 2 on the racetrack. A lot of the aero drivers have put it simply. Just trying to keep it casual, trying to have fun to let the race come to them. Harry Grandel, Seth Eggert amongst those coming down this time by, who were able to stretch it and go a little bit further before the caution. Some of these drivers offset up to 7 laps on their strategies because of the yellow.
Thanks, JP. Most everybody else staying out under this caution flag. 37 laps complete. And Joey, why don't we try and get a hold of somebody under this caution flag and see how they think things have gone?
Yeah, let's try and get a hold of somebody. Let's see, who do we have to talk to here? Is somebody waiting for us? I gotta see if I can steal somebody.
But there are a lot of people around, including Cootie, if we wanted to talk with him as well. He is here.
Yeah, let's talk to Andrew Cootie. Somebody else is going to have to drag him in here, but let's talk to Andrew Cootie after that Brad Keselowski wall hitting. Andrew Cootie, can we get him? That's the mystery.
If Discord would cooperate, please scroll. Please scroll. Thank you. There he is.
There he is. Andrew Cootie. Tough break early on. What happened?
Well, that was frustrating. I had a good pit stop, and I kind of took it a little too easy into the pit stall, and then I had gotten in front of Seth because Seth was in front of me majority of that run, and then just lost talent. I forgot to change the ARBs and the weight jacker, and just spun it. I didn't feel it going around until after we got on the straight, and yeah, it's frustrating, but nothing really I could have done anything different besides change the. I'm gonna probably beat myself up for it for the next 24 hours, but nothing I could have done now, nothing I can do now. I think I would have been okay if there wasn't grass right there. I think I might have been able to get the brakes slowed up and maybe not have hit the wall, but yeah, I had a meatball and everything, so I was done for. But thanks to Corey for spotting for me, and thanks to the Guardian Esports boys for supporting me, and yeah, we got the Daytona 24 coming up, so we're gonna focus on that, and then we'll come back for FTF in, what is it? When are we starting? What, February?
44 days.
44 days.
43 days.
43 days.
43 now.
Well, is it the day before the 500?
No, it's the week before, I think. There's the graphic. That's all.
Oh, I see it. I see it. There it is.
First.
It's because we weren't here on Friday. I messed up my math.
Yeah, I'll be signing up for that. I'm hoping to not make the tiny text this time and actually just make the race. So, yeah. But Happy New Year's to all y'all in here, and thank you for doing what you're doing. We really appreciate it. It's hard work doing this stuff, and you guys do it really good. So you guys have fun, and go do some good work, and watch the race, and I'll be watching it on my television. So
tough break for Andrew Cootie there, but we'll see him back at Daytona. And Connor Harrington, speaking of having fun, he's going to the outside in turn 3.
Well, hold up. Parker on the bottom. This is going to be close. Harrington on the high side. Can he get the momentum down the front straightaway off the corner? Parker staying right with him, wheel to wheel down the front straightaway. The first challenge under green for the lead. Harrington clears, and he blocks down low. Connor Harrington to the front at Indianapolis.
Very, very close quarters. Here comes Josh Parker trying to fight back on the outside in one. This is the first time all night long that Josh Parker's been in dirty air. He's trying to readjust, but he has so much experience on iRacing. Dirty air's not going to hurt this guy very much, but Harrington is able to pull away, and now Parker's under pressure from Logan Helton.
That is why we come to Indianapolis in these cars year in and year out. What a battle for P1. Now it's going on for P2, and Parker's tied up the hill. Almost gets into Helton. He'll lose third to Groot, and Josh Parker goes from first to fourth in a lap.
I think I kind of cursed Josh Parker there by saying he was going to be used to the dirty air, because once Logan Helton sent it to the inside of him, he was just not used to being on the inside of another car there. The dirty air really caught him out. Alex Kolnick's way deeper in the field also than he really should be. He was fighting for third. The pit stop did not work out for him. He's fighting with Anthony Kroback here, coming into turn 2.
Oh, and he washes up, almost makes contact with the Home Depot car. Again, that's for 13th. And Kroback on the outside, able to hold his momentum. Kolnick tucks back in line. As you see them all kind of swerve down the back straightaway. What they're all doing is they're looking for dirty air, trying to get out of the draft a little bit just so they can kind of clean the nose off and maybe have a shot of making the corner.
And these are the early days right after a restart. This is the time where you can make your move. You saw how spread out things got in the first stint. That's how things always go. When you're close to drivers here, you need to make the moves when you can get them. You see Harry Grindell going for another move. Seth DeMerchant up front made a move on David Brown to get into the top 10. You got to make these moves when they come to you, because once you get later on in the run, it's going to be almost impossible.
closing in on the quarter mark here from Indianapolis. We're just 8 laps from it. Connor Harrington, now the man out in front. He's out in front by half a second. Then it's DeGroot, Parker, Ian Plash has entered the top 5. Blake Reynolds sits in the 6th position. Both of those guys had a great run so far now, just appearing in the top 5 and just outside the top 5.
Yeah, both of those drivers have been sneaky, especially Blake Reynolds. Missed the fast 12 just barely after day 2 of qualifying, or after day 1 of qualifying, but of course Blake Reynolds is going to be driving his way forward in the field. Got by Matthew Zwack, got by a lot of other drivers, and now he just kind of rides in the train here. You can see behind him Matthew Zwack, Hawken, Freilich, DeMerchant, all the way back to David Brown. It's just a big train further back. Things are starting to spread out here.
Down the front straightaway. Plash starting to reel in Josh Parker, and whatever Parker did on that first pit stop, it just seems like that thing is not as strong as it was in the first stint. He has been under fire just about every lap since the restart. Gary Owen has parked the car.
Yeah, Nate Stewart also brought the car behind the wall. He's out for the day. And Andrew Cootie, I don't believe, is getting back in the race. He didn't seem like he was interested in doing that in our interview. So that leaves Justin Malillo 1 lap down. Tyler Williams is still 1 lap down. And Michael Cozy Jr. is not a lap down. He is still on the lead lap.
Well,
he is 34 seconds behind Connor Harrington, though.
Well, and he is a lap down. And I understand why you think he's on the lead lap by scoring that you're looking at. It's based off of intervals to the cars between them. So he's
right.
33 seconds behind Jake Cook, but he's a lap down to the leader. So and no free pass, and no lucky dog. So these guys have to pretty much do it the old-fashioned way, unless they get lucky with the wave around. So Cozy under a lap, down a lap because of the black flag. Tyler J. Williams, remember, he was off the pace after he made the contact with Gary Owen. He pitted right when we came back to green. Malillo is 2 down in that 53. Everybody else out of the race. Frisch had a moment off turn 4 and a huge save, drifting it through corner number 4. He lost 3 spots doing it right in front of Alex Kolniks.
Yeah, I just saw that in my periphery as Ethan Corder was trying to do Ethan Corder things. Michael Frisch decided to steal the show a little bit. Hopefully we can catch a replay of that save into turn 4 because it was pretty spectacular. But here comes Blake Reynolds on Josh Parker, and Parker's not even going to fight it. I think he knows now that he's in traffic, he just needs to sit back and save because he didn't even try to fight back on Blake Reynolds there.
Blake Reynolds into position number 5.
In.
That means Plash got by him as well. Oh, Josh Parker on the pit lane. What is going on with Josh Parker? He has a meatball flag.
What? He must have hit the wall. That must have been why Blake Reynolds blew by him. Josh Parker must have gotten into the wall in the exit of turn 2. Justin.
Looks like it may have been coming out of turn 1. And it was. Exit of turn 1 on lap 47. He's already off the pace there.
And here's Blake Reynolds going through turn 1. We'll see if we can see Josh Parker in the distance. Yep, there he is. Clips the wall.
Just got the safer barrier.
Guy who's been so dominant all week long. Fastest on Monday, fastest on Tuesday, fastest twice on Wednesday. And the wall comes to bite everybody.
Josh Parker, the fastest man in Speedway, Indiana, is the fastest man no more. As I believe that was Frisch's moment there. That
Frisch
happened
drift.
Pretty much at the same time as Parker, but on the opposite end of the Speedway. So Josh Parker will not win the FTF Rectangle 500. A valiant effort comes up some 52 laps short. 152 laps short, rather. JP.
Never mind. Justin Prince.
And was about to say, when it comes to that, we talked about before the race, even a hit to the side pod can be major chassis damage and require mandatory repairs. But he said it himself. He had very little knowledge about the car in traffic. He was planning to use his eNASCAR background to try and figure out how to move the car's weight jackers and ARBs around. He was concerned about the aero, and the aero may have played a factor there.
Possible, because that was the first time that he had really been in traffic all race long, because he was out in front the whole first stint. And Josh Stoltz is mad about blocking. So interesting. Nonetheless, 50 down, 150 to go from Indianapolis. Connor Harrington, your leader, out in front by a second over Logan Helton. Another 6/10 back to Nick DeGroot. And then more than a second between Plash, Reynolds, and Zwack, your top six.
Yeah, Helton is doing the same thing he did in the first stint, I think. He's just hanging back, trying to save as much fuel as he can, and also simultaneously staying out of the dirty air. He's about 1.2 seconds back, 1.1 seconds back. That's just barely at the limit of the dirty air, when he's still going to get a little teensy bit of the toe. Not very much. He's still going to get a little bit of dirty air through the corners, but it's not going to be especially bad, and he can just kind of focus on riding here and, frankly, waiting for that next pit stop to come.
Josh Parker still getting work done on the car. And as I say that, he takes that thing to the garage. He is done. Josh Parker out of the FTF Rectangle 500.
Suddenly things are much, much more open here, but I guess as you lose one Titan, you do have another Titan in the lead. Connor Harrington was the driver who I kind of circled in this field as the driver with the most success in specifically Indy community racing. I think Connor Harrington is easily the most successful driver of anybody. Nick DeGroot around there as well. But Harrington was the favorite coming in here. Suddenly the guy who was beating him all month is gone. Now Connor Harrington's the top dog. He's got a huge target on his back.
Just has to stay perfect throughout the rest of the race, and that may be the hardest part, just because this race is so demanding. A lot of not battles at the front of the field. Closest battle on the racetrack might be around the 21st position, with Aaron Brown, Christopher Robertson, and Griffin Jones. You've got Eggert kind of tailing on back there, as well as J.D. Laird. It's a gaggle of cars right around that 21st position.
J.D. Laird almost clipped the wall coming out of 4, so he's still having a little bit of trouble. We saw him have trouble in the dirty air very, very early on when he got into Nicholas Pressey, and he's still having some troubles behind Seth Eggert here. Jay Cook behind, and Michael Cozy Jr. is the next driver behind them, but he's a good 30 seconds back. It's actually Justin Malillo who's a lap down behind him, but let's watch J.D. Laird here. Through turn 3, he's a little bit lower this time, almost clips the curb, and then through turn 4, maybe a little bit of a wiggle in the rear end there, and again, getting very, very close to the wall in 4. He's washing very, very wide. He does not seem very comfortable back there in 25th place.
No, he does not. How about the battle for 18th? Pressey and Jake Poulin. Pressey dropping 3 spots since the drop of the green flag. Remember, he spun at one point and was the second caution flag. Jake Poulin up 4 spots since the green flag.
I'm no French scholar, but I'm pretty sure that poulain is chicken in French, if I'm thinking correctly. And I guess that is that's not fitting for the driver, but it is fitting for that nice yellow livery.
Can we get a...
I'm like 99% sure poulain is chicken in French, I think.
Let's see. Google Translate is up in French. Poulet.
Poulet. Oh, yeah. Well, close enough. Hope there's no French people watching. The like Academy of French. If you're watching, just I didn't say anything.
Unbelievable. So it was crayons during the qualifying day. It's chicken tonight, huh? Is that how we're going to do this?
I feel like chicken tonight, like chicken tonight, like chicken tonight. No, that's a good reference. Go watch The Simpsons.
Well, find me the time. All right. Harrington still leading the way. I'm just staring at the timing screen, hoping a battle will magically appear, but it's really not happening, and I think it's because everybody is maybe saving fuel. I mean, we do have a long way to go.
Yeah, there's still a good 9-10 laps, I think, until any of these guys really need to come in. And this is the sort of holding pattern you get in 500-mile races of all sorts, especially 500-mile races at Indianapolis. Right now, this stage of the race, it's very, very early. You're still just thinking long-term. You're thinking strategy. You're thinking fuel. You can't really do anything other than that. It's not like you can magically close up to the cars in front of you. It's not like you can really go for as many aggressive moves as you want to drive your way forward. You just got to think about incrementally jumping your way forward little by little and saving fuel and thinking strategy. That's the best way to do it.
An update, by the way, on Justin Melillo. I talked about how he gave himself an EOL penalty under the caution flag. He ran out of fuel under the caution, and that's why he was having his issues, and that's why he is now currently in 29th place, the last car on the racetrack, 2 laps down. 58 laps complete here from Indianapolis. Connor Harrington, your leader. When we come back, pit stops from the FTF Rectangle 500. We're back at the FTF Rectangle 500 from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana. Jacob Hitz, Joey Tevin with you. Justin Prince is on the pit lane. Zach Johnson, our producer for tonight. Connor Harrington, now your race leader after the issues to Josh Parker that we saw a little while ago. And David L. Brown is in trouble. In turn 2, caution's out.
Yeah, I don't know if he clipped the wall or what. We were looking at Matthew Zwack in the break, who also hit the wall in a similar place. So turn 1 has been a very, very difficult spot tonight. Nate Stewart, JD Laird. Has David Brown become the next victim here? Hopefully we can load up the replay of what happened to downtown Dave Brown. Here we go, coming into turn 1.
Yep, and he does have a meatball flag. Zwack, after his incident, he did not. David Brown does not catch the same fate. And it looks like just too high. And then the inside wall for good measure, just in case the right front wasn't completely broken.
Exactly the same as Nate Stewart. Exactly the same. Turn 1 is very, very difficult, but David Brown going to be on pit road now with heavy, heavy damage to the right side of that car, Justin.
Yes, indeed. Quite simply, when asked by Logan Helton, one of his fellow teammates, about the situation, he said, "I don't know if it's bad, but it ain't good." Mandatory damage repair for car 83.
The good news here, Justin, and you were talking about it a little bit there in the break to us about pit strategy and when drivers thought they were going to have to come in. You said Helton would have had to come in really in about 2 laps time from now. Obviously, the caution bails him out and puts everybody back on the same strategy.
That's a great point, because it was talked about by Helton a bit about the fuel burn being towards the front. It was a 1-gallon burn difference he had. He just wanted to get the lap 66, however, make sure he didn't have to take an extra stop in that situation. But for the most part, most of the strategy throughout the entire field for this pit window was about stationary. Staying calm, get into a rhythm, work out the fuel strategy, work with your strategist to calculate said fuel mileage to make sure you can make it towards the end.
And everybody now on the pit lane. The joy of caution pit stops is the fact that really you're going to avoid speeding penalties coming on and off the pit lane. Harrington will win that race off the pit lane here, and they are 3 wide for position number 2. I think Logan Helton got it, then Plash, then Reynolds, then Nick DeGroot, but that was a cluster of cars coming off the pit lane.
No, Plash got it. Plash is making the move on Hilton. I think he was officially ahead on exit. He throttled it up, but he didn't get a penalty.
I might need a replay.
there was like a nose ahead. That was crazy stuff, but he figured out he had just enough give there at the exit of pit lane that he could throttle it up a little bit without getting a speeding penalty, and he just barely nosed it ahead of Hilton there.
I beg your pardon?
He was
from that angle.
I think it looks like he was ahead. I believe the telemetry.
At the cone?
Yeah, absolutely
hold
at the cone. Yeah, I definitely believe it. Blake Reynolds, I think he might have a case to be ahead of Logan Helton as well, but not quite.
Yeah, I figured out what it was. I was looking at the white car thinking that was Helton. Yeah, okay, yep. Never mind. Yeah, Plash P2, Helton P3, Blake Reynolds in P4 is the way they exit pit lane here under this caution. JP.
The funny thing about that race out the pit lane you were just breaking down, Plash's response as soon as he got past the blue cone was, I just blew the pit speed. He thought he was going to get caught for speeding. That's how quick he was on that pit exit. He was running, by the way, as quick as about 66 miles per hour before he checked up in time for the segment.
Michael Cozy Jr. and Tyler J. Williams, they will wave around here. They did not stop under this caution flag. They stay out to get back on the lead lap and are hoping for an early caution here so that way they can pit and get seemingly in cycle with everybody else. So Harrington out at the front, that's not new, but some newcomers here at the very front of the field like an Ian Plash and like a Blake Reynolds here. Joey, if you're in this situation, how do you keep yourself in check from just sailing it off into turn number 1, going for the lead too early?
Well, that's exactly what you need to do. You need to be patient. You can't go for low percentage moves the second the lead is offered to you, but also you do want to be aggressive. Ian Plash, he might not be happy to run in second like Logan Helton has been all night long. Blake Reynolds might not be happy to just ride in the train in fourth and save fuel. They might think track position is the way to go. Everything ended up evening out under that last caution, but those are also random luck. You can't necessarily rely on the cautions coming out to even everything out. The strategy is completely equal right now. It's basically like it's a green flag, but Ian Plash has to decide. Does he want to save fuel, or does he want to go for the move immediately?
We're getting jumbled up here. Logan Helton kind of peeking out of line. This is a jumbled up restart as Harrington now steps on the gas as they come up off the corner. Green flag back in the air, and we have a spinner.
Begley.
Sean Begley is around. Single car. Caution is out. He got hit, it looks like. We'll get a replay for sure. But Sean Begley goes around very similar to an accident that happened in the 2020 Indy 500 on a restart. That involving, I believe, Pato O'Ward, if memory serves me correct.
I believe it was the other orange car of Oliver Askew potentially, but I don't know. But let's see what happened here.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. It was Askew.
And he got, I think Sean Begley might be Askew back there as well. He's getting his spots back, but did he get hit or did he just loop it? Let's see. Oh,
he got hit.
Yep, he got hit.
Yeah.
He got punted.
Punterino there by Aaron Brown. So just like that, we're back under the caution flag, and we made it. A foot? We did not. I didn't even know the green came out and the caution was back out. So
yeah, we didn't make it to the line. That's the problem there. But that's why Begley gets his spots back. I don't know if he's gonna have to pit here and get damage fixed, but it's as if it never even happened. He's ahead of Aaron Brown again.
So how about this? Justin Melillo has shortened the caution flag. The pace car has its lights off and is coming to pit road. So a quickie caution here, and Connor Harrington will lead us back around to get the green flag. A very quick caution. We'll try it again. Harrington on the gas. Green flag. So far, so good in the back of the field. Harrington trying to break the draft down the front straightaway. The top three single file. Nick DeGroot, Blake Reynolds side by side.
There's only so much you can do when you're Connor Harrington right now in terms of running away. You're going to be flat out basically through turn one here. Here comes Nick DeGroot to the outside of Blake Reynolds. Powering to the outside. He's in clean air as well out there. And DeGroot's back up into fourth.
And Brandon Hawken had some trouble in turn number one, drifting the car. Cole Freilich had to lift, and it is a pack right behind Freilich. They are almost three wide. Kolonix in the thick of that. Matthew Zwack as well. You've got one of the Altus cars up there. That's Seth the Merchant on the high side. This is all P6 on back.
Alex Kolonix in the multicolored entry, peeking to the inside of Seth the Merchant. Now he's got a lot of work to do. He was as high as 30, started on the outside of the front row, fell back with an inopportune pit strategy a little bit earlier. He's getting aggressive, but he's not able to make the move onto Merchant. He's going to wash up a little bit here. He's got a great run, but can Kolonix in that pink and green entry get a run off of turn two? He's going to need to make the move onto Merchant.
Just can't quite get there. Action further back quarter. And now a big move here. Fresh and Harry Grindell going at it to turn number three. Oh, Grindell! That was close.
Yeah, Frisch and turn four have not been friendly buddies here, but here comes Nicholas Pressey to the inside of Grindell now, taking advantage of the lift that Grindell had to do there, but Pressey's not able to hold to the inside. On the outside, Grindell is able to hold far better. There's cleaner air out there. The tires are still not very worn, so you can get grip up there. The outside works for Grindell for the moment, but Pressey's not going anywhere.
Here comes Frisch underneath Kroback in turn four. This is for the 12th position. Frisch has had a good run, so has Grindell, who's behind this battle. Kroback plus 7 from 19th to 12th. Since the drop of the green flag for Frisch, he's up 11 from P24 to P13.
Going for the move into turn one really didn't work for Frisch there. He got the nose chopped off of him. You could see him get that understeer in the middle of the corner, drive up the track. That killed his momentum. He's not going to be able to get to the back of Kroback on this lap and try and go for the move again. He's under a little bit of pressure from Harry Grindell behind, but Grindell's not really close enough to think about anything either. I think Frisch kind of used up his chance there. He might have another shot at Kroback in a little bit if Ethan Corder continues to pull away, but you can already see we're starting to get into the train mode. You've got to go for the moves when they come to you, but they've got to be high percentage moves, and I don't think that Frisch move was a very high percentage move.
Looking at the battle for P number 10 as Cozy and Williams are forced to pit at the back. They did not get the caution that they were looking for. Corder closing in on Kolonix for the top 10.
Ethan Corder has been one of those drivers who's shown no real interest in hanging back and saving fuel and thinking about any of that stuff. He is all about track position. He's all about pushing, but he finds a driver in front of him in Alex Kolonix, who also seems kind of interested in moving his way and pushing and shoving his way through the order. You can see there's just that little bit of that air bubble right now between Kolonix and Corder. It's about 0.3 of a second. That's a gap that's almost impossible to bring down right now. If you are 10th and 11th in line, you're basically forced to ride in line now. If you want to make moves, that's great, but you're in a little bit of a tough spot right now.
Battle for P7. Hawken and Zwack going at it. That's allowing DeMerchant to catch up as well. Nice little cluster of cars right here. Really all kind of being led around by Cole Freilich, who's 2.5 seconds behind Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, with Blake Reynolds pulling away in 5th and Cole Freilich falling back this much, Cole Freilich essentially becomes a race leader. He's not getting any tow from Blake Reynolds. He's not getting any dirty air from Blake Reynolds. He's essentially driving this racetrack as if he is the race leader. He's expending all that fuel because he doesn't have to slow down at all. And Matthew Zwack is essentially second place in this little train here. That's going to allow him to get closer to Freilich than he would otherwise if he was deeper in the line, but as you can see, it is still very, very difficult to bring that gap down to the race leader. You can see Ian Plash in second, 6/10 behind Connor Harrington. You can see it as well with Matthew Zwack here, about half a second behind Cole Freilich. It is very, very hard to close up to the back of a car, especially when the track conditions are as hot as they are right now. They're not as hot as they were before. We're not in 133-degree temperatures, but things are still baking out there.
Christopher Robertson almost stuffed it in the fence again coming out of turn number 1. He had an incredible save coming up off the corner there, and I can't believe he held on to the race car. He lost a spot to Griffin Jones, but he kept the thing pointed in the right direction, and I mean, he was all over the place coming out of
He's
turn
still
number 1
losing
a couple laps ago. Yeah, he's got them tires pretty much with no grip.
Here we go. We're going to get to see it, just like we got to see the Michael Frisch drift, but...
Well, just missed it there, I think.
Oh, dear.
It's coming out turn 1. So this is the pass, because he just says, all right, well, forget it. Just take it. It was coming out of turn 1 where he was really sideways. Here we go.
That's Griffin Jones in the navy blue entry behind. Robertson ahead. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. That was a huge save. He seems almost out of control here. The weight jacker probably turned up a little bit too high for his legging, because you could even see on that lap that we were watching live before, he was wiggling through 1 and 2 for more than 2 laps.
Appreciate Ian Plash for texting while driving, typing in the Twitch chat while he's running P2, some 8/10 behind the race leader. Cole Freilich, Matthew Zwack, still a relatively close battle here for P6. And as I say that, Freilich starts to pull away once again.
We got Justin Prince down on pit road. Justin, what are you hearing about Cole Freilich?
When it comes to Cole Freilich's respective camp right now, they're trying to fuel out the car because they nearly hit the wall, as discussed a little bit a few laps ago. Essentially, the goal is simple from them. Keep them calm. Don't damage the right rear again. Because apparently, he discussed with his crew the history of repairing the right rear several dozen times in the past, and was also told just prior to that to think about freedom. They're having some fun there, trying to make sure they hold on to the 6th position.
The only connection I could make, thank you, JP, and when I saw you say it, was maybe the Freedom 100. And Freilich perhaps running a Freedom 100 on iRacing recently and having experience. That's about the best I've got as far as Think Freedom is concerned, unless that's just another code word for them. I'm not sure.
I was thinking he meant like the freedom in terms of the car being free, as in the car being loose, but I don't know. I'm no race engineer. I'm no translator.
See Nick DeGroot there running P4 right now on the racetrack, and being told that he is running the 2nd lane, and I don't know what that means because I cut to him and he's right along the curb, kind of where you're supposed to be. So I'm not sure if maybe he ran a 2nd lane by mistake, or what the deal is. Or okay, yeah, we got told about it and then he stopped doing it. How about that?
Yeah, I think he must have been trying to do it to stay out of the dirty air of Logan Helton, but he's fallen so far back. There's a full 2nd between Helton and DeGroot now that running in the 2nd lane would basically accomplish nothing for him. He wouldn't really be getting any more clean air than he would otherwise just riding in the normal line. And if he was up there in the 2nd lane, he would actually be scrubbing more because he's turning the car more. He's physically turning at a higher speed for a longer period of time, and that's going to scrub the tires more with no real positive effect.
JP?
about to say, drivers like Blake Reynolds have also noticed that respective line. We've been talking about the third line a couple times. It's just been the matter in those cases exploring for grip, because in some cases, it has worked that third line with this chassis. However, it's just been the nervousness about losing ground or not seeing the grip there that's been the tentativeness, especially in the Reynolds camp, of trying that line discussed with the group.
No doubt about it. With how fragile these race cars are, you make a bold decision like that, you find yourself in the wall, and, well, then it's really counterproductive. Connor Harrington still your leader. Nice battle going on for 15th. There was. Pressy and Jonathan Oates, it's kind of faded to the background now as soon as I spot it. But everybody having a pretty big distance between each other on the racetrack right now. And I think now that we're done with the restart, it's back to fuel save mode.
It is back to fuel save mode. It is back to just, frankly, being forced to just run in line here. There's not much you can do in this stage of the race in terms of making your own destiny here. You've just got to think strategy-wise. I'm surprised, frankly, that Jonathan Oates is still P16. Of course, we know he started, or he would have started P5, qualified 5th fastest, had to start from pit lane because of some technical issues. He was also kind of banking on some chaos and calamity on lap 1, but he's still only 16th. He's still only in the middle of the field. That's an accomplishment to drive that much forward, but I expect him to be a little bit further forward, because you can see the likes of Grindel and Ethan Corder, they've moved up far more.
Let's talk about some of the biggest movers and biggest losers of the race. Josh Parker was pole, was leading at one point, and found the wall, effectively ending his day. He finishes unofficially P30 tonight out of the race, losing 29 spots since the drop of the green flag. Biggest movers, Harry Grindel was a last-minute entry because somebody dropped out. He was the first car out after bump day. But because Carson Bowers couldn't make the show and Matt Danson couldn't make the show, that slid Grindel in. He's up from 32nd to 14th, plus 18 spots on the racetrack. Ethan Corder started 27th. He's up 16 to P11. Frisch is up 11. He's P13. Griffin Jones is up 12. He was the other guy that got in because of people bailing. He's up P12 to 21st.
It just kind of tells you that qualifying and racing are not necessarily the same skill set. Of course, you see a lot of the drivers who were fastest in qualifying. They're still competing in the top 10 here in the race, but the likes of Grindel, the likes of Griffin Jones, they weren't fast enough to make the field, but they're fast enough to race their way up forward through the field. It's just two completely different disciplines, two completely different schools of thought. Some drivers, frankly, just aren't good at extracting that speed on those 4-lap runs, but they're great at extracting the speed in race conditions, adapting to everything in the race, and you're seeing that qualifying isn't everything.
Some issues for Jay Cook here on the racetrack. I believe we have a replay of it. Sounds like maybe another incident with the turn 1 wall. Let's have a look.
Has it bitten again? Ah, that's not what he wanted to cook.
Not as hard as some of these other guys have hit the wall, but yeah, that's a maybe not a pick 6, but at least a Russell Wilson pick cooked up there by Jay Cook.
I promise that's the last time I'm gonna do it. That's the last time I'm gonna do it. But I gotta use my opportunities when they come up.
The last time this year you're gonna do it.
Yes.
Closing in on halfway here from Indianapolis. Connor Harrington, your leader, out in front by a second over Ian Plash, Logan Helton, Nick DeGroot, Blake Reynolds. That's your top 5. First battle on the racetrack might be for P8. Seth the Merchant, Brendan Hawken, within about 0.4 of a second. As it's just 220-mile-an-hour chess at this point from Indianapolis.
And we just ride right now. Like Talking Head said, we ride on this highway of fire, and we just kind of sit here for about 7, 8, 9 more laps, I'd say, until everybody has to come around again. Hope that you don't end up hitting the wall. You can't lose focus. That is an important thing in this stage of the race. You might think it is just, riding in line, driving around in a parade, but you've got to be focused. If you lose focus for 1 second, you're still adjusting everything in the car right now. You're still having to lift to not get into the wall in the dirty air. You're still having to drive the car. You're not just driving around in a circle. And if you do lose focus, you do forget for a second that you're driving around in dirty air, that's how the walls come to bite.
About 24 laps through this stint for everybody, so guessing here that within the next 10 laps we're going to see much of the field onto the pit lane. They had an extra caution lap in there because of Begley's spin. It just kind of extended that caution. We never actually got another caution thrown, just extended it by a little bit, so... Yeah, they haven't had much time to save other than actually on the racetrack while racing.
Following Brandon Hawken here for the past couple of laps, he's been doing some work. He's been pushing his way forward. He's been one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack actually right now, and I think he might be done saving fuel. He might be looking at Seth DeMerchant ahead and saying, I could probably get that position from Seth. I could probably get P8 here if I start to push, but he's finding the difficulty of doing that. He's finding that bubble of air. He might be faster right now. He might be that little bit faster, but you need to be quite a bit faster than the car ahead of you, especially in a train like this, if you want to actually make the move. DeMerchant does have about 2 seconds up to Matthews Wack. He doesn't have the most dirty air in the world ahead of him, but Hawkins still finding the difficulty of this chassis in traffic.
And that last time by, DeMerchant was a 10th faster than Hawkins, so he's doing his best. Both drivers, though, are setting lap times faster than your top 3 in Harrington, Plash, and Helton. Plash setting the slowest time out of the 3 of them, a 41.484 that last time by around the racetrack. So, yeah, closing in on stops. We're also closing in on the halfway point here in this race.
And as we do that, I have just noticed the FTF caution predictor is here. When will the next caution be? Will it ever come?
Oh, it's right now. Seth DeMerchant just hit the wall. DeMerchant just hit the wall coming out of turn 1. He's on the access road. That thing is broken. He does not have
caution,
a
though.
flag. Now he does, but he was able to save the race car. He's got to make it around in one piece.
He's got to make sure he doesn't lose it here in 3 and 4. He's going to take the access road. Very valiant thing to do to stay out of trouble here, but it is going to be very, very difficult to drive that thing. You can see it is going crab mode on the apron there. He's got 1 more corner to go, then he's home free, but Seth DeMerchant, another driver. He's been bitten by the siren of turn 1. Here we go. He was about 2 seconds behind Zwack. Like I said, he didn't have that much dirty air, but misjudged it completely. Probably lost a little bit of focus. Smack.
Almost looked like when he got down into turn number 1, he may have caught the curb. He got close. No, he didn't. He got mighty close to it, though, and Seth DeMerchant has parked the car. Done for the night. Turn 1 is a busy place.
Yeah, Kevin McAdams suggests we call it the 90-degree nightmare. I was thinking more Nate Stewart corner because he was the one who hit it first, but there's a possibility for all sorts of names there.
The Nate Stewart nightmare have a little bit of
maybe.
I don't know.
I've hit that wall many, many times. I can tell you that much. I think the first time I ever ran a race like this, it was on my outlap, was competing in the top 10, would have likely been in the top 10 at the end of the race, but on cold tires, I did exactly what I said not to do. I lost focus, hit the wall. The actual official race on iRacing earlier this year, crashed I think 3 times, still finished P13 after getting damage fixed. It's a marathon out here.
just can't lose focus, and that's what makes this race so difficult. The margin of error so tiny, and the impact as a result massive when you make a mistake. JP. Go downstairs and see what we got here. Justin Prince.
Pit stop window opening up. Cole Freilich just coming down. His team right now very happy, to the point where his strategist for tonight, Chris Relio, basically sung Sweet Caroline to him for the past 3 laps before they entered the pit lane. They made sure to tell him, focus on getting those weight jacker settings right. Don't have an issue like we've seen earlier today.
Can't stand that song. Cannot stand that song.
Here comes the race leader, Connor Harrington, onto the pit lane. JP.
And so far, doing well when it comes to the strategy. Harrington, longtime veteran with this type of chassis. Again, that respective camp been quiet throughout the night, but Harrington, keep in mind, so it's been very quick here, usually a top 5 threat, no matter the type of series or no matter the type of event, with this type of chassis as he jumps onto the jacks to start off his service. The rest of the drivers starting to get their way to the pit lane. Frisch amongst those quietly coming in, had to save the car several times throughout the run, while several others have kept very calm, just focusing on one thing: see if you can get to lap 99 to cut out a pit stop.
A lot of guys not following through with that. We're on lap 97 now for the race leaders. And majority of folks coming onto the pit lane, 4 out of your top 5. Everybody except Nick DeGroot coming to pit lane. DeGroot takes over as your race leader. Kolinick's now second. But a gaggle of cars to the pit lane, JP. He's gone. Okay, he's back to work already.
Ian Plash worried me coming in there. I don't know if he made pit speed. It looks like he did. He got up on the tires. He's fine, but he was stretching everything. That's been his thing so far tonight. You saw what he did, the 3 wide on the pit exit. Ian Plash is getting every little bit of an advantage he can on pit lane, but yikes, he was playing with fire coming in there.
Your leader is in so far. The only speeding penalty we've had has been from Cozy in that first attempt. Plash ran it out of fuel, by the way. So you wonder why he was trying to make pit speed at the last second. That's because he ran it out of fuel.
He is just a one-man excitement festival here on pit lane, Justin. You've had too much to talk about with Ian Plash.
Steve, when it comes to Plash, mentioned he ran out of gas coming into the pit lane, actually. He said, and I quote simply, "That could have been bad." Plash happy to be able to get going as a result there. He did lose a few tenths of a second through that pit cycle as a result of running it dry on the gas.
Some great analysis there from Ian Plash, the commentator for the Drift League. That's escaping me. I have it down on my notes there. He is ESDA. And great analysis there. That could have been bad. Yeah, well, he had a pretty good pit stop out of it. Right now, where things cycle out, he would be still second on the racetrack. He lost about a second, though, to Harrington. Kolinick's Pressey on the pit lane right now. Jake Poulin, your leader. Seth Eggert is second, perhaps just waiting for a caution. Next time by, we're at halfway.
We have had some of the greatest iRacing analysis of all time tonight. You see the analysis from Ian Plash. We had Josh Parker saying, "I want to be on the strategy that's going to win the race." This is what we love to see.
Here comes Poulin. Off turn 4. He will pit. So he will hand over the lead. So will Seth Eggert. Who's going to lead lap 100? Who's going to do it? It's going to be Connor Harrington. Connor Harrington crosses the Art of Bricks first. 100 down, 100 to go in the FTF Rectangle 500.
This is the first time we're really starting to see lap traffic come into consideration here. Connor Harrington is putting one driver 1 lap down. He's going to put Ethan Corder a lap down next. He has caught the back of the field here. He thought he was going to be in clean air. Nope, not even close. He's got a bunch of lap cars to fight with. That's David Brown, by the way, not Ethan Corder ahead.
Yeah, and that's dangerous right now. And look at Harrington all the way up trying to break that draft. and get out of the dirty air.
This might help him a little bit. This might give him a chance to save a little bit of extra fuel. He's going to pass David Brown, because remember, David Brown hit the wall in turn 1, got even more damage after that. He is not in a healthy car right now. This is going to be an easy move for Harrington. But if this was any other car, if this is the driver who's ahead of David Brown right now, a healthy lapped car, I don't think Harrington's going to be the most disappointed driver in the world. It gives him a chance to have somebody ahead of him to save a little bit of fuel, to steal a little bit of the tow off of. I think Harrington could use a lap car buddy right about now.
He's got Malillo in front of him now, trying to break through a lot of traffic that now Plash is hitting right now.
Plash is going to have even more trouble in lap traffic here, because he's not going to have much trouble with David Brown, I don't think. He's still so damaged that it's not going to be the most difficult pass to make, but the dirty air, it stacks up, it adds up. Here comes Ian Plash to the back of one of the lap cars, not able to make the move, but I think it shouldn't be too difficult for him to get through David Brown. But he's also got Jay Cook ahead of him. That's who that lap car is ahead of Ian Plash, and Cook also has damage, though, so he should be a pretty easy move as well. It's going to be difficult with 2 cars, but he's lucky they're not healthy.
Right. Couple more pit cycles, though, and you could run into that. Right now, really nobody has been put a lap down solely off of speed. Seth Eggert, the first car, really in danger of that, and Sean Begley, and they're a good bit behind. Actually, no, they're not. Harrington's closing in on them quickly, so it won't be long until some of these guys at speed. Michael Cozy Jr. onto pit lane. Remember, he's off cycle after taking the wave around to stay on the lead lap under the last caution flag. He comes down now. Was hoping for a caution, did not get it, and he'll fall 1 lap down.
Harrington clear him a little there. Didn't want to ride behind Justin and save fuel at all. He just wants the race lead. He's happy with that, and I guess you can't really blame him. It's been working for him, and you can see the gap that's now expanded to Ian Plash. 2.7 seconds just because of that lap traffic. Plash eventually did get by Jay Cook, I think, but it was a little bit more of a struggle than I was expecting because of David Brown being the pick ahead. Now Logan Helton is behind Jay Cook. He's got to get by Cook. He's got to get Brown as well. And he's got Blake Reynolds behind, who's just, again, inching his way forward. He was 5th last time we saw him. Got by Nick DeGroot. Now suddenly the podium's in contention.
And he is closing in a hurry. The gap 0.3 of a second between Reynolds and Helton.
Flash just got by David Brown ahead. It's been a struggle, but he's finally gotten by him. Now here comes Logan Helton, who's made up all that ground on Plash because of the lap traffic, but he's going to lose all of that ground again as he tries to get by David Brown. He's not going to catch him in a good place here. If he caught him maybe down the back straight, he might have an easier time, but he's going to catch Brown in the corners here, in 1 and 2. That's going to let Ian Plash pull away and get a nice comfortable gap in second.
Oh, and David L. Brown went to the high side there. Helton went to the bottom, and I think that panicked him just a little bit. But here goes Helton to the bottom to go by, and Blake Reynolds just watches from behind.
That actually did end up working out very, very well for Helton. He got held up in 1 and 2, but he was able to make the move down the back straight. He was able to clear Blake Reynolds. Reynolds has to check up off of turn 4 because of Brown's slowness with that damage. Reynolds gets by as well, but that was a scary moment.
Oh, man. Connor Harrington really lost a lot of time behind Sean Begley. Begley went to the outside to let Harrington go, and Harrington went to the outside to go around Begley, and it cost him a lot of time. Man, oh, man.
I hope we can catch a replay of that, because that was dicey stuff for the race leader. He was having too much of a dream time before. He was just riding on his own. He was having an Indianapolis track day, but the lapped cars have decided to throw everything at Connor Harrington here. Here we go through turn
There it is.
1. I think Begley was trying to let him by, but this isn't a road course. You can't really do that.
Yeah, and he didn't tell him to, because Harrington had been using the outside to get around the slower cars. He did it there, and Begley's plan was to go to the high side to get out of the way. So some miscommunication there. The gap's still 2 seconds, though, between Harrington and Ian Plash for the lead. Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed, and Harrington over the radio, not quite happy, to say the very least, asking him if you're going to move in that direction, and didn't finish his sentence, essentially. Traffic starting to become a major factor in this race, keep in mind. Blake Reynolds actually said he thought it was helping him with some of the momentum because of the speed difference, but most of the yard drivers have kept pretty calm for the most part, as some of the drivers, not all of them, have reached the lapped car so far.
Thank you, JP, as we're closing in now on 90 laps to go from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana. Connor Harrington still your leader by almost 2.5 seconds over Ian Plash. Plash trying to get by Begley right now. Into turn 1, he'll do that. And then third place is Logan Helton. Fourth place, Blake Reynolds. Nick DeGroot is in 5th with 90 to go.
Things worked a little bit better there for Sean Begley. I think he communicated a little bit more with Ian Plash to let him by there. But now Logan Helton, next driver on the scene, peeks to the inside. Begley basically puts it in the wall to let the drivers behind him by. I mean, he's being very, very courteous, but he's putting himself at risk of getting in the way of drivers behind him. Luckily, there is quite a big gap behind Nick DeGroot back to Cole Freilich that he's not going to have to worry about that. But yeah, Begley was opening up the track quite a bit there.
Yeah, that's got to be scary. In these cars, when you have a slower car up in the way, that can't be easy.
And there's nothing you can do to like lift out of it. You can let off the throttle, you can get on the brakes, but centripetal force says no. There's nothing you can do there. There's nothing you can do to slow down if there's a slow lap car ahead of you. We've seen that happen so many times in races here, in real life equivalents that may or may not have happened with drivers named Dave Jamieson. Things like that tend to happen when there's a much slower car ahead that is just kind of in the way.
Once again, scanning through the order, looking for any big battles on the racetrack. We're going to talk about him again. Harry Grindell, 12th, plus 20 since the drop of the green flag tonight. And he is about 9/10 back on Frisch for 11th. He has been incredible tonight.
I would not be surprised if we see Harry Grindell in the top 10 by the end of tonight. He's got some work to do to get there, but Ethan Corder and Frisch are not out of the question for Harry Grindell, especially if there is a caution, especially if there is a little bit of a hornet's nest on one of these restarts. Harry Grindell has not been scared to make moves. He's not been scared to drive this car forward. It's been a phenomenal drive forward, and that's why we're still talking about him. I'm happy to just keep coming back to Harry Grindell every couple of laps, just going, Harry Grindell, he's up 20 spots. He deserves it.
Remember, he wasn't even supposed to race.
Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to be here, but he got in because Matt Danson had another obligation and couldn't make it tonight. That's it.
Harrington caught Justin Malillo again. Has Justin gone another lap down?
More than likely, he was just on pit road 9 laps ago, which I believe is the reason that he's catching him again.
I mean, Justin was very, very courteous last time Harrington caught him. He just basically let him by, but it's deja vu for Connor Harrington here. I don't think he wants another lapped car in front of him. You can see the effects of it. He's getting held up here, and there's the real traffic. There's everybody who's actually on the lead lap. Seth Eggert, Robertson, Poulin, Griffin Jones. That's the real traffic that Connor Harrington's going to catch, and he's going to catch him. He's not coming down pit road for about 11 more laps.
And we'll see how they do here in letting or not letting the leader go on by. 85 to go and 43 to go to the FTF Bar Visual 500 from Daytona Beach. Sign-ups go up in 2 days, January 1st. Go to ftf.gg for more information. A lot of fun awaits us in the upcoming weeks here on FTF. The All-In 650 kicks off in 2 weeks' time. The 24 at Daytona coming up in a couple weeks. And then the Legends of the Future 500-mile race at Bumpy Daytona, the Legends 500. That'll be something. And then it's the big one, the Daytona 500. Oh, okay, yeah, and Keenan doesn't want us to forget about Core Martinsville on Wednesday, I guess.
Ian Plash is like decimating this gap right now, and that's because Justin Melillo isn't going to let Connor Harrington by. We heard from Kevin McAdams, a little bit of the mindset of Justin Melillo. He's on fresher tires. He doesn't want to go 3 laps down. He's going to fight to stay ahead of Connor Harrington here. And that is slowing Harrington down. That's bringing Plash in. That's bringing Logan Helton in. Blake Reynolds is catching as well. Nick DeGroot is catching as well. We're going to have the top 5 with a blanket over him here soon.
Almost like a plate race where everybody accordions together. As, yeah, you're right. Plash is coming. You almost wonder maybe if Harrington is backing off a little bit more, riding in behind Melillo, saving fuel. Because remember, the leader doesn't often get the chance to save fuel.
He does not, and Michael Frisch makes the move on Ethan Corder. He was finally able to break down the bubble there. I think there may have been a little bit of a mistake out of Ethan Corder, potentially out of turn 4, but these late opportunities to make moves late in the run, you get that one little bite at an opportunity, you've got to take it. Frisch absolutely took it. And Corder can't fight back here. He tried to get back in the rhythm. He tried to fight back when he got the opportunity, when he was close, but they've settled back into the rhythm now. Corder can't close that back up. I have to imagine he might have destroyed his tires a little bit more than Frisch did. That tended to be how Ethan Corder has treated his tires over the course of tonight. And here's even more running. Zwack and Freilich side by side. Zwack makes the move for P6. And Harrington is in P5. Did Harrington hit the wall? No, he's in.
He's pitting. He's pitting after 22 laps.
I mean,
Connor Harrington is on pit road after just 22 laps. Ian Plash to the race lead. JP's working on trying to figure out what's going on here with Harrington, making the call to come on to pit road. I'm not sure maybe if short pitting here gets him to the end a little bit nicer than some of the others. But for Harrington, just an 8-second stop. He's down and away. Very interesting decision.
And Plash is in as well. Plash follows Harrington in to kind of cover him off here. I think what both of these drivers are doing is they knew when we restarted with about 100 laps to go, you couldn't make it on just 3 stops. There was always going to be that little 10-lap nugget of a stint. You're going to have to do a short stop with a little bit of a short splash. So Connor Harrington says, I might as well split it up. I'm not going to do 30, 30, 30, 10. I'm going to do, say, 20, and then another 20, and then a 30 and a 30. He's more evenly splitting things, so he doesn't just have to go for a splash and a dash, and he's also hoping that he gets out of the lap traffic there, and I think he has. I think he has come out in clean air right ahead of Aaron Brown.
Michael P. Frisch pitting, speeding. Womp womp.
Womp.
Second car to speed today, joining Michael Cozy Jr. So the two Michaels having some trouble right now. Robertson also on the pit lane. And looking at where things cycle through, Harrington comes out in front of Ian Plash by a good bit.
Yeah, Plash just spent 1 extra lap getting held up by the lap traffic there, and what was once a 6/10 gap between Harrington and Plash, it's now more like a 3-second gap. That's how much time Plash lost by staying in the traffic there. We don't often talk about undercuts in this style of racing necessarily, but when you're getting out of that lap traffic, when you're in clean air on fresh tires, it is so much faster, and Connor Harrington has really used that strategy masterfully.
Frisch sped on pit road, then parked the car. Wow. Harry Grindell to pit road.
And Grindel might be doing the same thing Harrington's doing. He was in traffic. He was fighting with quite a few drivers a little bit deeper in there, and he's thinking, I really want that top 10. I want to be the guy who goes from not being in the field at all to being a top 10 finisher. And this lap traffic is really, really shaking things up.
Downstairs to Justin Prince.
Different fuel discussions coming in this situation at the moment, because lots of the drivers are starting to discuss, especially those trying to stretch the tanks. They are getting very tight on making it on a couple more stops. In fact, it's been reported by some of the drivers in aggressive fuel save mode even that they might be 2 laps short if they even get to 70 to go for the pit stop. So a lot of concern about making it to the end on gas on just a couple stops compared to an extra stop for many in the various paddocks right now.
Aaron Brown makes the call. He'll pit. He's in 13th right now. He is the lone car between Harrington and Plash, I believe. Just about. There's a lap car in between them as well, but even Plash is still 3.5 seconds behind.
I believe that was Aaron Brown who just came in there. Yep, that was Aaron Brown that we saw on pit road.
Thanks for joining us.
Now Matthew Zwack, Cole Freilich. I was looking away. I was trying to focus on that live timing because I'm trying to do what Justin's doing in my own head here and count backwards. It's going to be 2 more stops for Connor Harrington, I think, but we do have Justin Prince back here to solve some of the pit lane mathematics.
And that mathematical equation for many of the drivers still continues to try and figure out where are they going to land. When are these stops going to land? In the case of Cole Freilich's camp, they said they felt comfortable following behind Matthew Zwack in the laps prior to that pit stop. So they're comfortable with working with the 7 car if necessary.
Very interesting as we're inside 75 laps to go. And we're doing the math backward. It's almost like we're at a road course trying to do the math from the finish to now instead of, well, the other way around.
Harrington's still trying to bully his way forward here. This isn't lap traffic. This is the same lap traffic that, or the same lap competition, I should say, that Connor Harrington has here. Just got by Josh Stoltz. That was 4th position. Jonathan Oates is next on his list. Looks like Ian Plash is going to get by Stoltz as well. He's really brought that gap down. Harrington just got checked up by Stoltz for a little bit. That's brought the gap down from what was over 3 seconds. I think Plash now has it down to about 2 seconds.
Yeah, he is closing in. Slowly but surely. Just watched one car bounce it off the wall, coming off 4. That was Aaron Brown. Just kissed it with the right side. He's all good. As it's been a little while since we've seen the flagman get to work.
Helton's in.
So Logan Helton bites the bullet and comes to the pit lane. That puts Blake Reynolds to the lead. Brandon Hawken will join him.
It's basically a reverse of the Connor Harrington strategy here. Everybody knows they basically have the same amount of laps to divide, but they just have to divide it differently. That's the difficult part. That's why all these guys have their own race strategies. You don't want to be doing all of this math. You don't want to be doing all this strategery in your own head, because it's basically impossible.
Let's go downstairs. More cars on pit road. Here's JP.
Blake Reynolds had talked about thinking he can potentially push the fuel to about 70 laps to go. Only makes it to 71 laps to go. Had started to play around with the fuel maps too, to some of the higher tune numbers. The main concern in his camp, though, is he's not sure about the strategy from some of the others who just pit about up to 10 laps earlier. He thinks he might be able to save enough gas towards the end. However, as we know with the mathematics, could be very tight at the end.
Thank you, Justin Griffin-Jones on the pit lane now. Nick DeGroot, Alex Kolnick, Nick Pressey, Jonathan Oates, the 4 drivers still on the racetrack, as well as Poulin and Eggert. As I say that, Oates is going to come in next time by. So the last few drivers that have yet to make their stop is on the pit lane.
Nick DeGroot has gone 32 laps on this stint. Alex Kolnick has gone 31 laps. So both of these guys have been kind of the examples of fuel saving here. I have to imagine Nick DeGroot's going to come in here. I have to imagine he's going to reach the hard end of this fuel tank. And here he comes. Nick DeGroot on pit lane, Justin.
When it comes to Nick DeGroot, one of the major things he's known for in this community is being able to stretch fuel runs when necessary. Likes to take things very conservative. We won some races at this facility with some of the strategy. So Nick DeGroot able to try and stretch it in a really good spot potentially to try and go for one less stop compared to some of his competitors. Alex Kolnick in that same boat, who's been talking about the need to preserve that right front tire with many of his competitors right now amongst those, rolling on in as the strategy comes to a close for the most part.
And everybody, for the most part, has made their stop. Poulin, Eggert, Pressey, the 3 remaining drivers that have yet to take a trip onto pit road during this cycle. And Pressey's going to do that, it sounds like, this time by. So we're going to have a ball game here with some of these folks and see how far they can make it.
My math in my head is correct. It's guaranteed, I think, to be 2 more stops for everybody else in the field. I think things have evened out. Even if, now I'm thinking about Connor Harrington and Ian Plash, because they came in so early. They came in 13 laps ago. So when they come in, there's going to be about 50 laps to go. Oh, and Logan Helton almost gets in the wall in turn 1. There's no point thinking about pit strategy if you wall it. He got away with it, but Blake Reynolds is going to be on the attack down the back straight.
Yeah, that could be big if we get a caution. That would shake everything up, especially right now. If you wait a little bit longer for a caution, that could balance the cycle out or open up a sort of strategy. But the strategy right now for Blake Reynolds is to get by Logan Helton.
Blake Shelton, can we bring back the sunshine?
Well, just as the cloud comes over the speedway.
It'll be back eventually, but Blake Reynolds had his one chance there and couldn't quite take it. Couldn't quite get close enough into turn 3 there to dive into the inside. He tried to set it up again on the outside of 3, but he was stuck in the dirty air of Helton and he wasn't able to recover. He had his one chance there. Now he just has to wait for Helton to make another mistake. Will it ever come? Who knows? Justin, what have you got?
Well, when it comes to Helton, he thinks he may have hit a dirty air pocket from about 1.8 seconds back is the theory, because David Brown reported the same issue, he said, earlier on in this race. Outside of that, though, no reports of damage for that car. They have to be thankful to be able to keep running as in comes C11.
Yep, pulling to pit lane, and Helton is pulled away from Reynolds now since he made the contact with the outside wall. Connor Harrington out in front by 2 seconds over Ian Plash with 65 laps to go once he hits the yard of bricks. So this race moving right along, and we're closing in on the final stages here from Indianapolis.
There will be 2 more stops for everybody else in the field. For Connor Harrington, he's going to have to come in likely around lap number 50. He's going to have to come in again after with 50 to go rather. He's going to have to come in again after that with about 20 to go, or however he decides to split that up. Everybody who came in about 5 laps ago, they're going to have to come in twice as well. It's just going to be more stints they have to divide by smaller numbers. It's all sorts of complicated stuff, but it all boils down to the fact that everybody has 2 more stops to go, and I don't think there's a possibility of anybody saving fuel to eliminate one of those stops unless there's a ton of caution laps. Then maybe somebody like Nick DeGroot might have a shot of just having a 1 stop to the end.
Well, and if you just pitted here, Joey, you're looking at, unless you do some funky math or short pit or something, you're looking at pitting at the end of this race with like 6 laps to go.
Yeah, that's why you've got to divide it up. That's why you've got to divide it up evenly. But also, if you're going to commit to that 1 stop, you've got to commit to it early. You can't decide late to go for that. If you want to hope for a caution, you've got to commit. Speaking of committing, Michael Cozy Jr. has been struggling with the pit commit cone, and I think he might have just got another speeding penalty.
Yes, he did.
Oh, dear.
Yep.
And he was back on the lead lap.
Cozy. Well, okay, so remember, he was back on the lead lap, but he was off cycle from everybody because of using the wave around under the most recent caution. So he would have needed a caution to get himself back into this thing, but he didn't. So I believe that's going to be the night as far as competitiveness from Michael Cozy Jr., but Nick DeGroot still believes he can make it on 1 more stop in P5, and he may try and stretch the distance on this, and I don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe him, because he did a 32 lap stint previously. He would need to do 2 35 lap stints to make it to the end of the race. I don't think that's going to be possible. I don't think he can extend 3 extra laps compared to anybody else. Twice.
Right. Well, you wouldn't think.
I'm willing to be shocked. If Nick DeGroot could pull it off, I'd be pretty excited for him, but some things not even Scott Dixon could pull off. And he's not even running especially slow lap times right now. He's actually running faster lap times than Connor Harrington, than Ian Plash, than Logan Helton, than Blake Reynolds. If DeGroot's saving fuel to go 35 laps, I think we got to check the fuel tank after the race, because he's pushing.
Well, and he does have the draft off of Blake Reynolds, but, I mean, he's not using a lot of that draft. It's coming to 60 laps to go this time by. Connor Harrington, your leader in the FTF Rectangle 500. Will they have enough fuel to make it the distance on their strategies? Will a caution blow everything up? More from Indianapolis right after this. Stay with us. You're watching FTF.GG. Back here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Jacob Pitts, Joey Tebben, Justin Prince on the pit lane, and JP, I know what you have, so I'm coming straight to you.
More tempers involving the traffic for one are starting to pop up. That traffic continues to chuckle down and trip down Harrington's Gap. But the main thing, too, in regards to that, one of the drivers trying to sort out can they get to the strategy of the blue 44 as well as the 01 is Blake Reynolds, trying to see if he's going to be able to try fall in. That's still a major discussion point. While there is also the discussion point from others, such as Colin Hicks comparing to the group, can they try and even to their strategy? So a lot of different cards are being dealt onto the table to figure out, do we follow this hand, do we do this hand, or do we light everything on fire?
Like Reynolds.
Oh! That's Helton and Reynolds for P3 again. Just going to mention, cloud cover has taken over the speedway. The track temp was 115 degrees. It's already dropped 1 degree. The longer the cloud cover is, the cooler the track's going to get. That means that things are going to handle differently here.
And they're going to handle better, especially in traffic. The hotter the racetrack, the slicker and the more difficult it tends to be to follow behind another car. But as the sun's been going behind the clouds, the track has been getting a little bit darker, a little bit cooler. It is certainly helping things. We don't see as big of a dirty air bubble as we saw before. Blake Reynolds has been able to get very, very close to the back of Logan Helton. I think he's going to get another shot here out of 4.
The track temp peaked at 125 degrees at one point here in the race. And we'll keep an eye on this battle for third between Reynolds and Logan Helton for third as we ride on board on top of Helton's car.
That was a tough run through turn 1 there. He peeked to the inside for some reason, and then he washed out, almost got in the wall, had to lift out of it. You're really seeing the effects of the dirty air train here on board from the perspective of the drivers for really the first time tonight. Reynolds isn't really going for any higher lines. He's not really trying to search for the clean air. That tells me that he's not the most interested in actually going for the move. If it comes to him, he'll go for the position. If not, he's not getting aggressive right now. He's not trying to abuse the tires too much.
The sun has returned as we close in on 50 laps to go. Michael Cozy Jr. has parked the car. He is done for the night. And this battle has allowed Nick DeGroot to reel in. It's a 3-car battle. DeGroot running the high line in turn number 2.
DeGroot is not saving fuel. If we didn't know that already, Nick DeGroot is absolutely not saving fuel right now. He is going full race mode, and he's doing exactly what Blake Reynolds wasn't doing. Instead of just riding in the line and then hanging back, Nick DeGroot is searching for the clean air. He's running the higher line, and it's working for him. He's able to keep up the speed. He's not able to make the move on Blake Reynolds. He's not able to close right to the back of him, but he is getting the momentum moving. Logan Helton is helping Blake Reynolds quite a bit with the draft, though.
Yeah, tip number 1 is the speed. Tip number 2, the fact that he's not using the shortest way around the racetrack to get around here. That's the other sign that, yeah, he's probably not saving fuel right now.
Just not able to get quite close enough to think about making a move yet, but he is certainly posturing himself to do so. That's a great run through turn 3. If he can keep it behind him through turn 4, he might have a shot, but again, Logan Helton is just really helping Blake Reynolds on the straights. DeGroot needs to get much closer. He basically needs to hope for a mistake out of Blake Reynolds. As Connor Harrington is down pit road again, Justin.
And this was a discussion point for a lot of these drivers. Would they come in early, try and prevent the tire wear, knowing there was the chance of the extra stop? Since a lot of the drivers picked up time, Ian Plash, though, speeding penalty, will have to serve a 40-second stop and hold. Plash now out of contention as a result of the speeding penalty after running as high as the race lead.
He's been playing with it all night. He finally played too hard.
That stinks. Oh, man. Oh, Blake Reynolds got awfully close when he came onto pit road. He makes it, though. Locked up the tires. He's fine. But Ian Plash's night ends in heartbreak at Indianapolis.
As more pit stops continue here, Blake Reynolds, as we talked about, did mention the chance of following the same strategy as the two we've seen previously in the pit lane. He was actually perplexed at the ability of Nick de Groot running the third line that we talked about before. He's looking to just focus on trying to split this run, essentially, for the rest of the way. It's a one-stopper for their strategy. But when it comes to de Groot, he is following Logan Helton, it's worth noting. Helton's already mentioned he is concerned on the gallons, and they need a magic fuel-saving tree to be able to save enough gas, essentially. Just the goal is save fuel as this window progresses.
Well, if you got a magic fuel-saving tree with the prices of gas, spread that thing around, would you, Justin?
Well, only a couple people have them, and Nick de Groot is one of those who has had them in the past.
All right, well then I'll be sure to hit him up after the race. Inside 50 to go. Thanks, JP. As a couple of drivers still staying out on the racetrack. Logan Helton, your leader now. Nick de Groot second. Brandon Hawken is third. Corder fourth. Grindel fifth. Kalanick sixth. Krobach seventh. Then Harrington, who's just off the pit lane, in eighth. Blake Reynolds 3 seconds back in ninth. Jonathan Oates, that battle for position right now, P10.
All those drivers you said were thinking about the magic fuel tree. Well, I think all these drivers that stayed out, they're hoping for the magic caution tree, because that's probably their only hope of making it on one more stop. But Harry Grindel is in here, Justin.
And the interesting thing when it comes to him is, remember, he was one of the two drivers who got in through the alternates. He had mentioned before tonight's race, he usually DNQs by a margin since he's not a hot lapper. Amongst the drivers who are the biggest movers tonight, amongst the top 10 before the pit window, up to 5th before his stop, he said himself, I suppose in a way it's an opportunity for me to prove, mainly to myself, that I'm capable and deserve to be in the spotlight every now and then. Could this be the night for car 70?
We'll just have to find out. May need some magic. On his side, Ethan Corder to the pit lane. And it sounds like Jonathan Oates will be pitting this time by as well, and he will. Logan Helton stays out. He's got a second lead over Nick de Groot, who it's believed at this point de Groot will be perhaps the favorite for the win. If it's not, Connor Harrington, who sits in P6. It's all dependent on the strategy in these final 50 laps.
If Nick de Groot is going to make it on one more stop, he needs to make it to 35 laps to go or less. If he comes in before then, he's not making it unless there's caution. So that's going to be our answer there. As Ian Plash, I think, just clipped the wall off of turn 4. He already went a lap down. He's been fighting hard to get back on the lead lap and pass Connor Harrington, but he definitely hit the wall there.
He's doing okay for now, but still, I think at this point he's just trying to do everything he can to get the car into the finish line and think about what could have been. He could have kept it without speeding in the last pit stop.
Matthew Zwack catching up to the back of Nick de Groot in the background there. That's going to be an interesting thing to watch. If Matthew Zwack on those fresher tires with a full tank of fuel committed to this two-stop strategy, if he just blows by Nick de Groot here, that tells me that Nick is probably doing a little bit of fuel saving, but that isn't what I'm seeing here. Zwack doesn't even peek to the inside into turn 1. De Groot's still defending. He's not making it on one more stop. If I'm wrong, I'll eat my words, but this is not the look of a driver who's going to make it on one more stop.
You wouldn't think, but I don't know. Closing in on 40 laps to go. We're running out of laps. Some pit stops. Krobach is in. David L. Brown is in. Downstairs to JP.
Anthony Krobach amongst those coming in so far, keeping things pretty calm for the most part. He was trying to figure out a lot of those adjustments for the in-car tools prior to getting to the race. Trying to use his VR headset throughout the night as well. Has just been maintaining an energetic tone on the radio and through his side for most of the night. Elected just to come in now because why not?
Hawken is in as well in the 099. Thank you, Justin. Tyler Williams will pit as well. this time. He's barely on the lead lap right now. He was another one of those like Cozy that was trying to get back on the lead lap with some strategy after taking the wave under the last caution flag. That was a good chunk of time ago at this point. We have been green for a good portion of this race here down the stretch.
And we got a lot of the early teething issues out of the way. All those early incidents, all those drivers ending up in the turn one wall, but it has been an absolute green fest since then. It has just been phenomenal driving throughout the entirety of the field, but I do worry as we get later on into the stint, as we get later on in the race, in these dying laps, when people do start to get desperate, when people do start to get fatigued a little bit, that is when mistakes tend to happen. I'm not gonna commentators curse a caution. I'm not gonna jinx it, but these are the difficult points of the race when those things do tend to happen and shake everything up.
Yeah, we have gotten close to going 100 laps caution-free here in this race. The caution came out on lap 62. That was the caution. And we're on lap 160 right now, so we're almost 100 laps green. Here at Indianapolis, some pit stops. Logan Helton is in. Josh Stoltz is in. Downstairs to Justin Prince.
Well, Tanel Munsto's coming into the pit lane this time by. They had been reaching the very tail end of the fuel run. There is a lot of discussion, though, on when they come in for the final stop. There is the discussion, do you wait for the tires? But more importantly, Jacob, trying to time it out where they don't lose a lap in case there's a caution flag within the window to make it to the end.
Just have to wait and see. Nick DeGroot still staying on the racetrack. He's been out there now for 29 laps with 40 to go. Zwack is hanging right in there with him. The track temperature back up to a toasty 123 degrees. As now a little bit of cloud cover back over the speedway, but the track is cooked up over these last couple of minutes. Currently 26 cars on the racetrack. 20 of them are on the lead lap. No, sorry, 6 of them are on the lead lap because not everybody is cycled around. And Nick DeGroot is some 16 seconds out in front of Kolonix. Now he's on the pit lane. Nick DeGroot perfectly in on the pit road. No black flag. So he makes the call to pit now. He can't make it 40 laps. He's going to have to pit again.
Now Kolonix is going to be the last driver kind of committing, trying to go for one more stop here. He's got to make it to lap number 35, I think. If he can do that once, he can do it to the end, but he's got a long way to go, Justin.
And the second Nick DeGroot ducked into the pit lane after 31 laps on the run, jubilation in the Alex Kolonix pit box. They feel they can go another few laps on top of things, saying Alex Kolonix, after finding out, we're in the money, boys. They are feeling confident.
We'll see if that works out. Ian Plash is off the pace on the back straightaway. Way off the pace. What the heck? Okay, he's back up to speed now. He was going 160 down the back straightaway, down onto the apron. Not sure if it was to let Blake Reynolds and some of those other leaders by or what, but he's backed up to speed now. All eyes turn back to Kolonix, who thinks he has it down to a science to make it to the end.
Remember that guy named Blake Reynolds when he was riding around in fourth or so behind Helton and behind DeGroot and behind Plash? Well, he suddenly finds himself in P2 most likely overall. Kolonix is your overall race leader. He might have a shot at the win here, but Connor Harrington, I'd say he's your most likely leader. Blake Reynolds suddenly finds himself with one car between him and the guy who's led the most laps in this race. It has just been a completely anonymous drive forward through the field for Blake Reynolds. It's been all on pit lane. It's been a masterclass in strategy.
Seth Eggert coming up off the pit lane after he made his stop. This time by 35 laps to go. Kalnick is coming. So he's going to try and go 35, 35, and 35 here for Kalnick. Kalnick, I believe, was on the 33rd lap of his stint. JP, let's go down to you down in the pit lane.
And Kalanick's coming into the pit lane here for what may potentially be the final stop here. Talked with his team, especially with Kevin McAdams, trying to make sure they hit the right marks. How aggressive can I be getting to the commitment cone? And now it's the matter for their respective camp. Think of the big picture. They're already talking about potentially using traffic to be able to save a bit more gas after the stop.
Lillo is in. Nick Pressey is in. Those two getting their service done. Connor Harrington retaking the lead. He's been out there for 16 laps. Blake Reynolds out there for 16 as well. With 34 laps to go, they're going to need a miracle to make it to the end on fuel without stopping.
And even if Kalnick does make it to the end, if he can pull off a 36-lap stint, if that is possible, you saw he was only 10 seconds ahead of Connor Harrington when he was leading the race. So Kalnick can do all that fuel saving he wants. He can try and save it all, but if he isn't fast enough, if he loses 10 seconds on track to Connor Harrington, which is entirely possible, he doesn't win either way. So he has a delicate balancing act to do back there of saving fuel, but not saving so much that he loses all the time and lets Connor Harrington win things anyway. Harrington had a little bit of a dicey moment there with David Brown, by the way. Got by him. Now Blake Reynolds has to deal with him, and that gap that came down, suddenly Blake Reynolds finds the dirty air of David Brown, and it isn't so pretty when it happens to you.
I was going to say, Blake Reynolds about knocked the wall down coming out of turn number one. That thing was wicked out of control, and he lost a half second with that bobble. As he's trying to do the best he can to reel in Connor Harrington and go to victory lane here at Indianapolis in the FTF Rectangle 500 in the Dallara IR-17s as we're closing in the final 30 laps here.
The lapped cars giveth and the lapped cars taketh away. Blake Reynolds finally gets to the inside of David Brown here in turn one. Again, remember, Brown has damage early, and he almost gets into the wall in turn one. He almost did exactly the same thing that gave him that damage in the first place. Blake Reynolds gets through, but David Brown almost brought out another caution with that.
Harrington, your leader. 32 laps to go. We step aside now so we can take you all the way to the finish. Who's going to pull out the right strategy at Indy? We're back after this on FTF. The calculators are smoking here on FTF in the Rectangle 500 at Indianapolis. Aaron Brown had some issues. We'll get to that in a moment. More importantly, though, pit stops for Logan Helton. You see him there coming back up to speed. Helton on the pit lane. Let's go downstairs to Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed, Logan Helton just completing his service. They had talked about coming in after 10-15 laps to be able to try and go for broke towards the end. So it is a planned stop for Logan Helton and his team.
Cole Freilich doing the same thing. He's on the pit lane right now. Now let's see if we can go back and look. Never mind, here comes the leader. No, he stays out. He was going to pit, but there was another car coming. That was Jonathan Oates. So Harrington bails and says, okay, I'll do it another lap. Here's the replay of the Aaron Brown situation here. That's not quite it. Yep, it's on the opposite end of the speedway here. It's coming out of turn number 3, so we'll come down the backstretch. And it's
right
similar
in front
to
of
what
Nick
we've
DeGroot.
seen. It's similar to what we've seen in turn 1. But it happens here in 3 instead. He goes in. Everything's fine. He gets loose in the wall, comes down the racetrack. He does have a meatball. He's currently on the pit road trying to fix the car. He's been there for some 2.5 minutes. Aaron Brown will not finish this race. Your leader, though, is on pit road, and Connor Harrington. So he bites the bullet with 26 to go this time at the line. He comes to pit road for what could be his final stop. Downstairs to Justin Prince.
And Harrington making his scheduled stop has led 102 of the 174 laps tonight. Now it's the matter of pushing to the end. Essentially, this explains the early pit call from before. Sliced the race up essentially into quarters from that point on. And now off and away, saves about a second in the pit lane, having to take less fuel to make it to the end.
Helton had the same thing with his stop, just 8 seconds for both of them on the pit lane. 26 to go. Blake Reynolds, the leader. He was on the same strategy as Connor Harrington, as is Zwack as far as when they pitted. We'll see when they come in. Ian Plash, Josh Stoltz, Tyler J. Williams, they're not on the lead lap. They are in the pit lane, and we also had a little injury update from Ian Plash. He may have broken his hand. He got mad. Matthew Zwack speeding on pit road.
And not exactly what Zwack wanted, because they had been running top 10 most of the night. Another mistake on the entry in the pit road coming on the money stop. But you mentioned the situation with Ian Plash. He claimed he hit his hand on his desk and told his competitors he thinks he may have broken his hand. No confirmation fully yet, but he
Blake
has been
Reynolds
silent.
speeding on pit road. Blake Reynolds speeding on pit road, JP. That is huge. Your race leader speeding onto pit road. There was a crash as well. J.D. Laird crashed into the entrance to pit road. He's parked the car. I think he just unplugged the computer from the wall. He's done. But major implications now as Zwack and Reynolds both speed on the money stop, JP.
He thought he was going to be able to launch it in. He just said over the radio he was at 78 miles per hour at the cone. And as a result, Blake Reynolds, a huge mistake, takes him out of contention, and now it gets interesting. It's down to the strategy windows at this point.
DeGroot, your leader, as Brandon Hawken is on the pit lane here, JP.
And Brandon Hawken in his respective camp, very quiet race tonight for them so far. They had talked about the importance of track position because of the effects of the aero wash. However, they knew it would come down to getting the in-car adjustments. Hawken amongst those who have been running around the edges, if not in the top 10 most of the night, with Ryan Pendicio helping him on the box.
He's down and away. DeGroot still out in front. Another car to pit road this time. That's Jay Cook who's coming in. He's a lap down. All eyes on Nick DeGroot. Out there for 16 laps now. And now he's trying to make it these last 22 laps. Can he make it the 38 laps it would take for him to make it to the end? Or when will he stop if he has to?
It's a question that he's got to answer in his own mind right now. He's probably thinking, theoretically, ideally I could make it to the end if we get a caution. And I think that's what he's gunning for right now. He's hoping that mythical yellow flag comes out. It can allow him to save that little bit of fuel, stay out in front with a few drivers behind him for buffer, and that's how he's going to win the race. If that caution doesn't come, I think you're going to see him come down for a splash and dash with about 8 laps or so to go. If that caution doesn't come, though, Alex Kolonix becomes the only driver, I think, that has any theoretical chance of making it to the end here. It would have to be a 35-lap stint for him. It would have to be the longest stint anybody has ever done in this race. And he also only has 3 seconds of buffer over Connor Harrington to play with. So it's looking very, very difficult if you're not named Connor Harrington, unless a caution comes out.
Kolonix is getting some help. Lap car of Justin Malillo is pretty much pulling Kolonix around the racetrack using the draft. You see that right here. The gap is 3 seconds to Harrington, and Harrington is closing. And you remember, Kolonix thinks he's in the catbird seat. As far as fuel, we'll see, though, because Harrington is reeling him in very, very fast, JP.
Yes, absolutely. But the main concern, really more so for the 12 camp, is save more fuel. Make sure you get to the end. It is borderline if this machine can even make it for Alex right now. They are telling them, focus on the fuel number. Focus on saving another half a lap, maybe a lap, to try and finish this race out.
Harry Grindell on the pit lane. He's down and away. Griffin Jones is down there right now making his final stop. The margin, 2 seconds between Kolonix and Harrington. Harrington with the draft behind him of Blake Reynolds. Remember who sped. He's a lap down. And Nick DeGroot is still flying around the racetrack.
I'm honestly thinking that Alex Kolonix might not necessarily be fighting for the win anymore. I almost wonder if on pit lane, if on the pit box, they're thinking we probably can't keep Connor Harrington back if we are saving fuel like this, but we can go for a second place, for a third place. That's way better than finishing 10th or 11th or 15th or wherever he would have been otherwise. It's going to be tough to hang on to the win. Harrington is closing this gap down every single lap by huge chunks, but if Kolonix saves enough fuel, he could still be on the podium.
Caution, caution, trouble. It's Poulin.
Oh my God.
Jake Poulin's in trouble off turn 2. The caution's out. This changes everything. He got loose. Going into turn number 2. Actually, he had contact before that with Harry Grindell, who is having a fantastic run. And it broke Poulin's car. We'll get a replay. And that is huge. Oh, my goodness.
He's going to lose it again. Going to keep it on the apron, though. Good save.
Toe link on the left rear might be broken. Now, we're inside 20 laps to go here, so guys have to be moving. Your replay going into turn number 1.
That's on Poulin there. He left Grindell no room whatsoever, and then what happened into turn 2 here? The car was already broken with the contact mid-corner, but Poulin just squeezed Grindell down. Needed to leave him way more room there.
Yeah, the initial contact is what broke the toe link. And then in turn number 2, he found out the hard way with a hard crash into the outside wall. And Grindell pulls out late. And Poulin said, you know, you can't just send it in like that, but I don't know if that's necessarily sending it in.
Yeah, that wasn't really late either. He was veritably alongside coming into the corner, and Poulin just didn't leave him enough room. He's going to be kicking himself because you got to play with close quarters in Indianapolis. You got to leave people room. Poulin didn't quite leave him enough room. He's got heavy damage. He's on pit lane. Looks like Harry Grindell's going to live another day, but Nick DeGroot's down pit lane, Justin.
And to say the scramble involving this caution is paramount is an understatement. Absolute panic from a lot of these teams over the radio, but there has been a split call here. DeGroot, Kolonix, Grobach amongst those who were thinking about the fresher tires to utilize themselves. Harrington, Helton, Cole Freilich thinking more about track position amongst those staying out here in this sequence. An absolute flip of the script as a result. And because of the time of the caution, just 8 cars at the time of the caution, including the wave arounds, on the lead lap.
Wowza. Oh, man. So 2 drivers stayed out. Everybody else pitted. And there are 7 cars on the lead lap.
But the thing that's going to help Harrington for Helton is that Blake Reynolds and Jonathan Oates are going to stay in the middle there. They're not going to get waved around. And also Josh Stoltz and Ian Plash. By the way, how the heck is Ian Plash back out on track? They're going to be between DeGroot and Helton, so it's not just going to be a 1v1v1 here. It's going to be essentially 8 cars that Nick DeGroot is going to have to pass to win this race. Even if he is on 10-lap fresher tires, that's a lot of work to do.
So the drivers that get the wave here, Tyler Williams, Jay Cook, Brandon Hawken, Robertson, Freilich, Griffin Jones, Zwack, David L. Brown, Grindel, Eggert, Pressey, Malillo. That's if they stay out, and it looks like they all will. So they will get the wave around here. Cars that will not, Blake Reynolds, Jonathan Oates, Ian Plash, as you mentioned, Josh Stoltz will not. So those guys all trapped a lap down. As everybody now will fly by the pace car. And this will put Connor Harrington, the first car behind the race car.
Blake Reynolds scaring me a little bit there. I think he's expecting to get a wave around, but he's not. He's almost hitting Harrington under caution. Leave a little more room, Blake, please. But yeah, none of these guys are going to get waved around. That's just how the IndyCar lapped car rules work. If you're behind the leader, you do not get waved around. You've got to get your lap back on your own. So it's going to be a very, very interesting dynamic up here. Does Blake Reynolds go for his lap back? Does Jonathan Oates try to get his lap back? Do either of those guys help Logan Helton, or is Logan Helton going to have to pass them before they pass Connor Harrington? It's a whole mess, and it's going to be frantic on the restart.
I have a feeling we may delay the caution, or delay the restart, because look at all these guys that are trying to catch the back of the field. These are all the wave rounds, and here are the leaders now entering turn 3. Ian Plash has been given an EOL. He's dropping to the back because he asked for one. Connor Harrington is your race leader.
I just don't know how Ian Plash is back out on track with a broken hand. Maybe he put a plaster on.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. 14 laps to settle the FTF Rectangle 500. No overtime. So if they keep wrecking, we could finish this thing under caution. Green flag, Harrington on the gas. Lap car in between, first and second with Blake Reynolds and Jonathan Oates there as well. Helton has to get by both of them. Can he get by one of them before turn number 1? The answer is no. He goes to the outside. Nick DeGroot to the outside, trying to get by Oates. Helton will get there. DeGroot stuck still in traffic.
That's a big restart for both DeGroot and for Helton. They've managed to minimize their losses. They're not getting stuck behind the lap traffic. Look at Nick DeGroot to the inside of Jonathan Oates now. He's gone from having 4 lapped cars between him and Logan Helton and Connor Harrington to having 1 lap car between him, and Blake Reynolds sends it to the inside of the leader.
And that almost took them both out. Reynolds does a good job hanging on to the race car. Helton trying to reel him in. Caution, Matthew Zwack's in trouble in turn 4. A big crash coming off of turn number 3. Jay Cook involved. Cole Freilich has damage. And a multi-car crash with 14 laps to go is going to bring us another restart.
This is exactly what Nick DeGroot wanted. All that progress he made on the restart was great, but there was still the distance, the physical distance he needed to make up to catch Helton and Harrington. All that's gone now. He's right behind Logan Helton, but let's see what happened to Matthew Zwack here. Coming into turn 3, did it come from that gaggle of cars ahead? I think it may have. Yep, Jay Cook gets a bump from Freilich, and then Zwack, nowhere to go.
Well, it wasn't Freilich that got him. Was that Hawken, maybe?
Yes, actually, I think it was Brandon Hawken.
Yeah, that was Hawken that washed up into him. Freilich was right behind that and did get a piece there as they were bouncing around. And yeah, it was Hawken that washed up into him and got him up into the fence. And then it's on and nowhere for Zwack to go. Zwack, I think, missed it and then got into the back of that black car down on the bottom. And that sent him around. I think that's Plash, the lap car, that he got behind and lost it from there. JP?
Yeah, and tempers flaring a little bit as a result of the contact, yes, with Hawken in as part of that trigger too. We'll say this, Freilich, who got involved in that incident as well with the contact to the side pod of the spinning Jay Cook, has already reported his steering is bent, mandatory repairs for Cole Freilich as a result.
Yeah, a lot of meatballs out there. Cook, Freilich, and Zwack all with the meatball flags that they have mandatory repairs, and all three of them coming to the pit lane right now. Your top 7 stay out. Still no free pass, so nobody's going to get waved around here. Helton is still stuck behind Blake Reynolds. Reynolds is wedged in between Helton and Harrington here. And we have 1 to green, so we're going to get the restart with 11 laps to go here, Joey. They're trying to accelerate this, probably because they know these guys and you know, no overtime, so trying to get this race in under green. And you know that when we get to the latter stages, it always gets hectic.
It's going to get very, very hectic. You saw Blake Reynolds kind of showed his hand there before that caution came out. He sent it to the inside of Connor Harrington in turn 3. I don't think this is going to be a tale of Logan Helton passing Blake Reynolds to get to the back of Connor Harrington. I think this is going to be a tale of Blake Reynolds passing Connor Harrington, and that's how we're going to have a race for the lead between these two cars together. Blake Reynolds wants to get back on the lead lap.
Trouble for Ethan Corder. He got run over from behind by Josh Stoltz. Josh Stoltz ran into the back end, and it broke the race car of Corder. Corder is still on the racetrack. Corder is... Oh, we're extending the caution. I'm not quite sure why. Oh, it's because David L. Brown is stopped. Oh, we have a crash. Gary Owen wrecked. I didn't even know Gary Owen was still on the racetrack.
Gary Owen's back in the field here. What a...
He hit the grass at the entrance to turn number 3 and spun. So now we get to wait a lap.
I think Gary Brown is about 140 laps down. I guess he's just coming out to pick up a couple of extra spots. I mean, he could have got some spots on Cootie, I guess. He could finish 31st instead of 32nd, but...
Yeah, that'd be all he gets out of it is 31st.
Exactly.
Yeah, so now we're going to go 1 to green here. This time by.
So did David Brown hit Owen, or I don't know what happened between those two?
He dipped the left side tires in the grass and spun out. He never got hit. He just wasn't paying attention, got the grass on the inside and lost grip and spun out. JP?
To say tempers continue to flare is an understatement. It is worth noting a few laps ago, Gary Owen, when he first came out, did say that since I've returned to the race, it's been chaotic. Well, he's kind of right.
Yeah. You saw the replay there.
He's only been out on the track for 5 laps. How many cautions have we had since then?
Well, 2. Hey, remember, we made it more than 100 laps caution-free. I just want to remind people of that. Beginning and end may be all we remember of races. Those had cautions. The middle was perfect.
Blake Reynolds has been waved around, Jake. I just noticed that.
What the heck?
Blake Reynolds got waved around Connor Harrington. That must have been an admin decision, because that doesn't normally happen. Or maybe he got an EOL.
Isn't it when you get to 10 to go, the lap cars have to drop to the back? Isn't that the rule?
Yes, that's correct. He did ask about on race control with that. Once you get to 11 to go, coming to 10 to go, because of the rules in the real world, that's how it's structured.
Perfect. Green flag. Harrington snaking the field down the front straightaway. Now that Logan Helton is right on the rear wing of Connor Harrington for the race lead and potentially the race win. Here comes Nick DeGroot looking to the outside, going toward turn number 1. They're wheel to wheel for position number 2. Nick DeGroot has it on the outside.
Those are those fresher tires. Nick DeGroot on 15-lap younger tires than Logan Helton. He's on 10-lap younger tires than Connor Harrington. Harrington is a sitting duck now. Blake Reynolds given that end of line. There are no cars between Nick DeGroot and the race leader, and DeGroot's strategy has worked out perfectly with the timing of that caution. He's on so much fresher rubber, he's just got to bring the gap down.
Kalanick is around. Into the inside wall. Caution is out. Alex Kalanick, who thought he had the best shot to win on the strategy, single car crash to the inside safer barrier, and another caution with 10 laps to go.
Nick DeGroot's going to be very, very happy about that. He gets another shot, and he gets to be even closer to Connor Harrington, the restart. David Brown's bringing it back down pit road as well. I don't know if he was involved with Alex Kolonix, but he may have been. Let's see here. Here's Kolonix.
All by himself.
Yep. Dirty air, turn 3, restart. I've seen it happen so many times. The nose didn't get chopped off, but you end up getting in the wake. You get so much more understeer than you're expecting. And if you're not ready for it, if you're not prepared for it, it's going to spit you right into the wall.
Now, Corder had the meatball flag, remember, because he got hit. He is still on the racetrack. He sits P4. They cleared his black flag. Well, they cleared his black flag, so now he doesn't have to serve it. And yeah, I
so many strange things going on here.
Because clearly it's driving at least fine enough where he can ride the thing.
I don't see any visible damage. I guess the rear wing might be a little bit skewed, but that is so strange. For Ethan Corder to have a meatball, I'd worry about him on the restart. I'd worry that he's just going to get swallowed up by everybody behind him, because you can't just have a phantom meatball with no damage. You're going to be struggling either way, but Corder gets to stay out, and I guess he's just going to hope for more cautions so he doesn't really have to fight anybody at full speed.
We are on a quick restart, and I don't know if you can hear it, but people are burning fuel, and how they're doing that, they're getting up into gear and just sitting on the clutch and revving the car, and that burns fuel. The less fuel you have in the car, the lighter the car is, the faster it goes. Justin Prince, I'm sure you're hearing that up and down the pit lane right now.
Yeah, and still the scramble continues. Alex Kolonix, after that incident, hoping that last caution didn't come out, thought he had a shot to win, he said. Prior to that yellow flag, he feels that was the main trigger in turn to what we've seen. For Logan Helton's team, they're hoping that these two fight very aggressively, let's say, up in front. That he feels is his best shot to take this race win against two veterans of this chassis.
Thank you, JP. We're going to get a restart with 7 laps to go. So we may get one more caution out of this before you have to start scrambling to get this race to finish under green flag. Remember, no green and white checkers in this series, so we're doing the same here. Connor Harrington led the most laps tonight. An improbable push to P1 after Josh Parker crashed. And here he is now trying to win the race in the final 7 laps. Nick DeGroot looking for the flag after some pit strategy. Got him up into second after the caution. Green flag with 7 to go. The snaking continues down the front straightaway. Logan Helton looking to pounce back for second. He jumps to the outside. Nothing there to turn 1.
Was not the best restart in the world for DeGroot there. He's a little bit slow on the getaway, but critically, he's within 2/10 of Connor Harrington now coming out of turn 2. He is there.
Down the back straightaway, a big run for Nick DeGroot. Coming toward turn number 3. He looks to the outside of the racetrack. Wheel to wheel for turn number 3. For position number 1. Side by side for third as well. Down on the inside, there's still wheel to wheel coming through turn number 4. Harrington on the bottom. Nick DeGroot up top. DeGroot can't hold it. Harrington holds on.
This needs to be the defense of Connor Harrington's life. 10-lap fresher tires on the motor vehicle of Nick DeGroot to the outside into turn 1. He's been so good on the outside before, but Harrington is so good at holding the inside. Harrington's able to get clear through turn 1.
6 laps to go at Indianapolis. Harrington slides up the racetrack. DeGroot looks to the bottom. He can't quite get there. One car in trouble. It's Logan Helton. Now another car crashes. Tyler Williams is into the inside wall. We stay green. He stays to the bottom. Wheel to wheel in turn number 3. Harrington on the bottom. He's got the advantage. Still side by side off turn number 4. It's going to be Harrington out in front. DeGroot's got to try something else. Coming to 5 to go.
DeGroot's going to have to go for a little bit more of a squeeze, or he's going to have to hope to be a little bit more clear of Harrington coming into the corner. He needs a little bit more than to be side by side. Here they go again through turn 1. DeGroot trying to ride the high line. He's able to stay side by side with Harrington this time, but he needs to get a much better run down the back straight.
Looking for an undercut and blocking down low. DeGroot can't hold it it on the apron. He comes back up so he doesn't get into the grass. Logan Helton just hit the wall again back there. That car must be devastated. Harrington on the bottom. Here's DeGroot up top. Harrington again holding it down on that yellow line, on that white line rather. And he's going to hold on to the lead, coming to 4 laps to go. Right now, you're at the point of no return. If we get a caution, that may be the race. So these guys have to keep fighting like it's the last lap.
It might be a case of DeGroot not being able to actually make the move to take the lead, but if he can lead at the line, that's what's critical. I think he did lead that last lap. He just barely had a nose ahead at the line. I don't know if it's going to be possible to take the race lead overall from Connor Harrington. I don't know if it's going to be able to be possible to make the move overall, but if he can just lead at the line, that's all he needs to do.
They went to side draft and they made contact down the back straightaway. DeGroot apologized over the radio. There was no damage on either car, but that was very, very close. Coming to 3 laps to go as he right on board with Ethan Corder, looking at the fight for the race lead and the win. DeGroot again pulls out to the outside at the line. 3 laps to go. He's out in front at the start-finish line. No, he's not, just barely, but he has the advantage to turn 1.
Harrington led that time. Harrington led at the line, but DeGroot's still fighting back. This is the closest he's been. This is the furthest alongside he's been coming off a 2. He's going to have the momentum. He's not going to be able to get into the draft, but he's going to have a run. He's going to be side by side with Harrington into turn 3. And look behind these two with his meatball flag cleared. Ethan Corder just sits in line, frankly hoping that these two come together.
Harrington waited to turn in. That pushed DeGroot up the racetrack. Some great moves there. And DeGroot's in the wall. DeGroot's in the wall off turn 4. He got too wide. He hits the outside wall. Does he have a meatball? Not yet. 2 laps to go. Harrington out in front. Now Ethan Corder sits in position number 2.
And Ethan Corder is on the same strategy as Nick DeGroot was. He's also on 10-lap fresher tires than Connor Harrington. I don't know if Ethan Corder has shown the speed to be able to bring this gap down, but he has the fresher tires. He has the fresher rubber. Can he close this gap down? He's going to need to have a great run through 3 and 4.
Kroback got the wall as well, a little further behind him coming off turn number 1. He's still rolling, coming to the white flag. Ethan Corder trying to go from 27th to 1st in this race. He's got 1 more lap to do it. He's in the slipstream of Connor Harrington. Last lap in Indianapolis. He looks high. Harrington comes up the block. He's going to have 1 last shot to do it in turn 2.
He was able to get the run, but you know Harrington is going to go full snake mode here down the back straight. Corder dives it to the inside. He washes out a little bit, almost into the wall on the exit of turn 2. That's completely killed his run. Harrington looks to be in control here. 2 more corners to go.
Through turns 3 and 4, Connor Harrington said that he thought he may have a shot to go to victory lane. He's a big guy in these cars on the sim, and today he's going to do it off the final corner. Corder with the run. Can he get the draft? Here they come to the line. Connor Harrington's an FTF Rectangle 500 champion. Connor Harrington survives 500 miles at Indianapolis and takes the Dallara IR18s to victory lane for what could be the last time here on FTF. What a race and what a finish.
And I guess it is fitting after all that after everything the IndyCar community has been through, Connor Harrington and Nick DeGroot, the 2 drivers specifically picked from that community to kind of head this field. I picked them out before this event even started as the drivers with the most experience in this car. They put on the fight to win. Connor Harrington comes out with the victory after all of that, but I got to give full credit to Ethan Corder. Qualified 27th. We were talking about him during qualifying. It wasn't the best qualifying week in the world for him, but he made the field. He showed everybody what he was capable of in the race. And he almost beat Connor Harrington, one of the most experienced drivers in this car.
You're not supposed to burn out over the bricks, and Connor Harrington getting awfully close. Oh, he did it. He did it anyway. Somewhere, David Land is furious somewhere right now, I think.
Good.
Okay. All right, well. Nonetheless, Connor Harrington, your winner here in Indianapolis. We'll talk with him as well as the rest of our top 3 in just a moment. There was a crash on the last lap. There was a lot of chaos on that last lap. Aaron Brown involved in a crash. At the back of the field, you see there, one car catches the apron. And a big crab. Malillo phases through a car. Robertson, the other car involved there, he was the one that got the apron and turned around.
Going to file a protest on Justin Malillo there. I think he used his admin powers to phase through those two cars, but yeah, we're lucky we were on the last lap there. No caution could come out for that.
Man, oh man. Connor Harrington, your winner. Ethan Corder with a broken race car finishes second. Brandon Hawken, everybody from third on down, hit the wall in those last 6 laps. Hawken finished third, Pressey fourth, DeGroot fifth, Grindel sixth, Seth Eggert with the top 10. Anthony Krobach falls to 8th. Logan Helton fell to 9th. Blake Reynolds 1 lap down, rounding out the top 10, Joey.
That tells you that it's all about survival. Seth Eggert, we mentioned him, once or twice tonight, but he stayed on the lead lap, he survived, and he got a top 10 for it. Jonathan Oates, Stoltz, Plash, Griffin Jones, all those guys showed more speed, but they ran into trouble. Robertson, Malillo, Downtown David Brown, Sean Begley, Cole Freilich, Tyler Williams, all those guys just running into assorted amounts of trouble. You got to stay consistent over 500 miles, and staying on the lead lap is an accomplishment of its own.
Man, oh man. Scoring is broken through the rest here, so I'll just read it. Tyler Williams, 21st. Colin Nix, 22nd. Matthew Zwack, 23rd. Jake Cook, 24th. Jake Poulin, 25th. J.D. Laird, 26th. Michael Cozy Jr., 27th. Michael P. Frisch, 28th. Seth DeMerchant, 29th. Josh Parker, 30th. Andrew Cootie, finishes 31st. Gary Owen, 32nd. Nate Stewart, rounding out the field of 33 drivers tonight from Indianapolis. Let's talk with our race winner, Connor Harrington. And Connor, you had to put on a whale of a fight in those last 6 laps to hold off numerous different drivers. Take us through behind the wheel for the last half a dozen laps.
Well, man, it's never easy to win an Indy 500. And somehow we got it done. I mean, caution after caution there at the end. I was really hoping that it was actually just going to go green. It would have been a straight up fight between Blake and myself. Although I think maybe I would have ended up catching Ethan, I think. I'm actually kind of surprised he pit under that yellow. I thought that might have been the yellow he needed to make it. And we just got lucky, and then we were just praying for our lives and just defending for our lives the entire time. And somehow we ended up in victory lane.
What does it mean here to win here at Indianapolis in what is, at least for the foreseeable future, going to be the last race here with the Dallara IR18s here at Indianapolis?
You know, it really means a lot. You know, I mean, this is the car, or at least, you know, the Indy car was the car that got me on the service. I mean, I'm not a stock car guy really. I'm an IndyCar fan and a Formula One fan. And, you know, this car got me on the service, and, you know, it's the reason why I went to the 100th running of the 500. You know, I sim race for a team owned by Tommy Milner, who's a 24 Hours Le Mans winner. Like, it's crazy how this car has opened up so many, you know, doors that never would have existed without it. You know, I'm sad to see it go. I think personally, you know, it's the best road car on the entire service. I mean, and the community we have around it is second to none. And I really feel bad for everybody who put in a bunch of time and effort for all of our events and leagues, and so I really just can't thank FTF enough for putting this on as a last little hurrah here for at least hopefully only a short break.
So what's the milk of choice for the race winner?
I think we got a little whole milk left over from some like Christmas dessert. We're gonna have to go and grab that and enjoy it. But you know, it's a crazy feeling. I mean, the race is just so long. It's one of the, you know, it's the most rewarding race in my opinion to win. You know, even when, you know, we finish, you know, in the top 5 in the official 500 for the broadcast split, you know, that means a lot too. The amount of work that the guys put in, especially on the open setup side, is second to none. I can't thank everybody at Team Talent and Private Label Team Hype enough.
Connor Harrington, the winner of the FTF Rectangle 500. Connor, thanks so much and congratulations.
Thank you guys very much. This one's for the community, and hopefully we'll be back sooner rather than later.
There's Connor Harrington, a bittersweet win here at Indianapolis. Let's talk with our second place finisher, Ethan Corder, with Joey Tevin.
Ethan Corder, don't know what more I could say, but so close there in the dying laps with a potentially damaged car. I guess, first of all, talk us through what happened with that meatball flag that was cleared.
The car behind me, Josh Stoltz, he ran into the back of my car on accident, and they gave me a meatball flag. And I didn't know if it was because I lost my rear wing or if it was suspension damage, but everything felt fine. So I asked for that to be cleared. Turns out it was a little bit of excuse me. Turns out it was a little bit of just left rear suspension damage, and nothing too critical. So thankful for that, because we would not be here if that was way worse.
Talk me through those last couple of laps. DeGroot got in the wall, put himself away from the battle. It was you versus Connor Harrington, the driver who a lot of us circled at the head of the field for having so much experience in this car. What were you thinking in those last 5 miles fighting with that guy?
I think the most important thing was just to not wreck him or myself. Just try to build a good enough run for the backstretch and the front stretch. All in all, I think I had a little bit better tire because him and DeGroot were fighting so much. So I think if I had a little more experience in the car, or just a little more of just a little something extra, I could have maybe gotten a little more closer or could have gotten the win. But I'm extremely happy for this second place. We originally were supposed to start 30th, but we got shuffled a couple positions because of some forfeits. So going from 28th or 27th to P2, that's a huge success.
What do you think about the future now? It's questionable whether we'll be able to do as many things as we used to with this car, this track combination, but after finishing second in a 500-mile race here, I have to imagine you're pretty eager to come back to this.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I love doing these 500-mile races. Just the whole strategy that just it's not an all-out sprint. You kind of have to it's a lot of strategy. It's a lot of taking it easy a little bit. So I'm definitely, if there is no 500-mile race this year, I'm definitely gonna miss it. But yeah, I sure hope it's come back 2024.
We hope so too. Congrats on the P2 finish tonight, and I'm sure we'll see you in plenty more events in the future.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the broadcast as well.
Ethan Corder, so close to the victory tonight, but P2 at the end of it all. Looks like we've got P3. He was P3 in the end. Brandon Hawken is here, and he is with Justin.
Yes, indeed. Joining me alongside Pit Road right now. Brandon, up and down day today. Rode around the edges. In fact, around the top 10 much of the day. Talk us through that progression you had, especially the second half of this race, to try and put yourself in position there.
Man, that was really tough. There was just a ton of dirty air, and so track position was super important. And there were a couple instances there where I ended up losing a bit of track position. I just about lost it there on a restart one time, and the time before that I was tight, and so I was just playing around with the car, seeing if I could get good restarts, and maybe made it a little bit too loose for the second time, but there were a couple parts where lost some position there, and once everybody got strung out, it was extremely difficult to make up ground. So you just had to hope maybe like a lap car got in the way of the car in front, or if the mate got get tight, make a mistake or something. But towards the end there. I think there were a few casualties there, and I was able to get a couple more positions back to closer to where I was, and then with a couple of restarts to go, I just watched over the replay. I just got super tight when the car in front came down. I was about close to a second behind. They just stopped turning. So yeah, I just like to apologize to Jay and anybody who was caught up in that, but. went in, got some tires, and for the first restart, those tires were lightning fast. And fortunately, I was able to pass all the lapped cars because the 10 to go rule. I didn't even know that was a thing, and then so that helped out a lot. And then from there, I was just doing all I could to get some positions there. There was some room on the outside for a few times, so I took it and ended up paying off. That was a lot of fun, and man, big congrats to Connor. That was a really great drive from him, and that was just a really great time. It may have not have been the most action-packed race through most of it, but yeah, it was a really good time, and I'm happy that we can send off the IndyCar like this, because that looked like a great finish up front there.
It was a wild finish, absolutely, and you answered a lot, I think, of what people would ask in that regard. But of course, this chassis, I'm not sure of your previous experiences here, but you had experience coming in of being able to cross over very easily, speed-wise. What was it like for you tonight in the preparation to position yourself throughout this race in this car?
Oh yeah, I was learning a lot. I've driven the IndyCar a few times, but it's not like a car they do often. It's the same with a lot of people here. I think it's a completely different type of car as far as like oval stuff goes, and yeah, you can kind of like, I don't know, you kind of bring over a little bit of previous knowledge from driving on road courses and apply it to here. But yeah, when you're at like 220 miles an hour, the dirty air just gets like crazy. So I think that was the biggest challenge for all of us, was trying not to smack the wall, especially in turn one. It was really difficult to keep it off the wall in one. But so yeah, there were a lot of different things compared to a stock car that you'd experience with this, and pit stops that would like the brakes actually work in these, so that's awesome. And so yeah, a whole bunch of different things. They're a completely different car to drive, and it's just I guess just a matter of just finding the limits of the car and knowing its quirks and differences to what you're used to. And I think basically everybody we really adapted well to it, and I think we got an IndyCar regular who ended up winning the race, so that was fitting. So that was good, and completely different car to drive, but that was a lot of fun and a really great experience.
Well, congratulations on the top 30 finish overall, Brandon. Thank you very much for the time.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.
Brendan Hawken with an extremely detailed answer to each of those questions. Back to you, Jacob.
Thank you, JP. And, well, wow, what a race here on FTF. A lot of fun tonight with the FTF Rectangle 500. And for only having 33 cars, we certainly had a lot of different faces up at the front of the field. It was busy tonight.
Yeah, we could not predict who was going to win that race until the last lap. Even in the middle stages of the race, this is what always happens in these 500-mile races. You start to get a little bit tentative. You start to get a little bit complacent. Then suddenly that late race caution comes out. Everything gets thrown out the window, and then you get a fighter jet battle between Connor Harrington, Nick DeGroot, Logan Helton, who left the battle, and then Ethan Corder at the end. What better way to finish off the first ever FTF Rectangle 500, and hopefully not the last FTF Rectangle 500. There's one more day in 2023, and I really hope that is not the last day we get to drive this chassis on iRacing or at this track.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that, and it's sad to see it go, but what a way for it to go out here on FTF with what may be one of the best races, if not the best race that we've put on here on FTF this year. A lot of broadcasts, obviously done tomorrow with New Year's Eve. So that's it for 2022. We're done, and we get to reset beginning next week, just like that. Core kicks off on Wednesday, I believe, to ring in the new year, since the All-In 650 qualifying has been effectively canceled. That was supposed to be on Tuesday. 43 days to the FTF the FTF Bar Visual 500 at Daytona. Just 43 days. Sign-ups go up, in about 25 hours from now. So hopefully you'll be with us for that here in just under 2 months. And iRacing 24 at Daytona coming up in a little bit. A lot of good events on the horizon. And as much as it stinks to let this one go, there's a lot of good coming up. Just got to wait out for it here on FTF. For Joey Tevin, I'm Jacob Pitts. For Justin Prince down on pit row, and for Zach Johnson, our producer, Justin Malillo put in months of work into a week trying to put this thing together. Thanks so much for him for giving us the ability to do this for one last time. Connor Harrington is your winner at Indianapolis. We'll see you when we see you. Happy New Year. One last time.
Thanks, everybody.